greatest co-host in the world. What's 2K99? Get ready to rumble!
The tag team champions of the world.
My brotherly crevasse
That is the best intro I have ever received.
the world. The Buffalo Jets man.
Yo,
George Fant is a barely above replacement level, pretty good left tackle.
How can you say
Compare
that when
that
he
to
was
an-
top 3 in sack percentage last year for left tackles?
And I think when in doubt, until you have better reason, go with the optimistic view. And our defensive line is going to be giving a lot of people some trouble.
But yeah, it's got to be. I'm with you. I don't like the Nathan's fries when they're like floppy. It's got to be like done really well. You know, it's very hard to teach 6'3" and 4.3 speed. That's very rare. The talent's there. He's just got to put it together mentally.
right.
To get
You're a
on
cheater.
to you, I'm a cheater. Hello, and welcome to the show. Tom C was first, in case any of you didn't know. Microfox, what's going on? Good to see you. Eric Craig, just hanging out with you over at the Patreon with Green Bean. Good to see you, Harlan. And Super Leroy is here. That's cool. Guys, we got a big game coming up. I don't have to say it. I think we all know it. We got a very, very big football game coming up, so let's get started. We got some expertise coming in. First, let me introduce. He's under the weather. We'll find out if he's going to stay all night. It's up to him. We'll find out from the source himself, the man with the plan. Watch his videos because they're really good, so that's why you should. He likes to eat a hot dog in the fog, and he ate a lot of pizza. And it wasn't Daddy-O's pizza. I don't know. Anyway, please welcome my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world. What's 2K99?
Right now it's NyQuil 2K99. Oh man. 4 days in Nashville was fantastic. But yeah, that 0-degree weather and some other stuff. Went through the airport sagas as a lot of people did, but eventually did get home and immediately slept for about 4.5 hours and woke up feeling worse. So I've been home all day. I've not been moving, which has given me nothing in the world to do but break down the Jets, break down the Seahawks. And I'll give you what I have right now, but I'm definitely looking forward. Hey, at the beginning of the season, this is exactly what we were hoping for. Relevant games in January. Forget meaningful games in December. We're talking meaningful games in 2023, and it's not even September yet. So where else would you rather be than right here, right now? 2 games left. The Jets have a chance. Let's embrace the stress. Good evening, Jeremy.
You're sounding okay for a guy who was under the weather, so that's
Not
good
feeling
news.
it.
That's good news. That's good news. I got some backup anyway. We got some extra expertise in the house. Let's bring him in now. My favorite little dippity dee. It's Dominic the donkey. That's a horrible. The greatest Italian nerd, geek, numbers looker, replay follower, watcher, the greatest, coolest dude, but the greatest dad in the world. Tom C. What's going on, Bob?
What's up, gentlemen?
Good evening, good sir. Good to see you tonight.
How are you, man? Sad to hear that you're not feeling well.
We all go through it, but hey, you got to grind through it sometimes. I was listed as doubtful as of this morning, but worked my way up to questionable for the show. So
Good for you.
and that's good enough.
Yeah, we were all sick for over the weekend for the holiday. My wife and my oldest were out the prior week with the flu, and then me and my daughter caught it over the weekend. And me and my daughter both had flu shots, so it didn't hit us too bad. My wife and my son are still kind of 9 days into it, a little bit hurting, but it's what it is. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's nasty as hell.
Huh?
Anyway, here we are, and as Wat2K has already pointed out, meaningful football, relevant football, do or die football, gigantic football, as big a football as we've experienced in years in January. It's amazing, and it starts with Seattle. Adam, you did some breakdowns, so why don't you start? What did you like? What would you like to start with? What's the number one thing we should be looking at when we look at this upcoming game?
Well, there's a couple of things that I have in mind, but I will say this. As disappointing as the Jets' interior offensive line has been over the last couple of weeks, they may be playing the one team who has an IOL that is literally as bad as theirs right now in the Seattle Seahawks. Between Blythe, Jackson, these guys are just not doing what they need to be doing, and it's been one reason why Geno Smith has been facing a little more pressure, and Kenneth Walker has really had to fight for all those yards on an injured ankle. And I really think they're okay with the run blocking, but with the pass protection, they are struggling, especially at right guard. And I think this is an opportunity for the pass rush to really get back on their game. The last 2 weeks have not been the same, as we well know. I think this is the chance where they have their get right game. And also Abe Lucas, their right tackle. I don't believe he's going to be playing this game. So I think Seattle's working with a very limited offensive line, and if Geno Smith does not have the time in the pocket, well, he's not going to be delivering the football to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Advantage Jets defense.
Yeah, I saw that Abe Lucas didn't practice today. I didn't know the extent because it's only Wednesday, so I wasn't clear if he was out for the week or not. But if he's not, man, that's an even better bonus for him because I believe his backup is Stone Forsythe, who was a 6th-round pick out of Florida, a couple years ago. Big lumbering guy. Kind of reminds me of what was that guy? Oh, my God. What was his name in the blind spot? Michael Orr.
Michael Orr,
yeah.
Yeah.
He, very big, very intimidating looking, but, looks like Tarzan and plays like Jane, if you will. So hopefully we get to see him, man. That'd be great.
Yeah, the thing with Lucas, it's a patellar tendon injury. At first they thought it was a thigh injury. It turned out to be a patellar tendon. And the Seahawks actually have a history of patellar tendon injuries. Jimmy Graham, Trey Brown, now Will Dillsley. He's on IR. He's going to miss this game, which is a big loss for them in the tight end game.
Yeah, Noah Fant's hurting, dealing with a knee injury himself.
They are beat up. And Dillsley is also a very good run blocker. That could also limit Walker as well.
Okay, so let's remember that's relevant to what Super Leroy is saying because part of being afraid of a running back is being afraid of the offensive line that's blocking for that running back.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive running backs don't seem to do too well if they don't get the blocking. There are a couple of tough SOBs out there, some of the greatest in the game, that without the best blocking still manage to give you headaches and are still very dangerous. But I don't know if Kenneth Walker is there yet. I think he still relies on some amount of blocking. And if he's not going to get that, I think we can neutralize him. What do you think, Dom?
Oh, I definitely think we can neutralize him, And they're all – listen, kudos to Seattle because I think they're playing, well above where anyone expected for sure. They're playing good football, good sound fundamental football. They've addressed places on their team, holes in their team that needed to be addressed. But just the makeup of that offensive line, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Okay. Abe Lucas, we know, and Charles Cross were both drafted in the in the draft in 2022. Now they're different kind of tackles. Charles Cross came out arguably the best pass blocker in the league, coming into the league, I should say. And when he was in college, I mean, they ran that air raid, and he barely, no one knew if he could be a run blocker, but he's much more of a pass set. And then next to him is Damian Lewis, who's a road grader, right? And I'm not sure about the center. I don't know much about Blythe. And then you got next to him a road grader and Gabe Jackson, another big guy. And then you got Abraham Lucas, or in this case, if he's not playing, Stone Forsythe, who is a little bit of each. So I don't know how they've been able to piece it all together, but whatever they're doing is working. I'm not necessarily afraid of the run game. What they use the run game more, and I shouldn't say that because the kid has had, Kenneth Walker's had a bunch of, strung together a bunch of really good games. I don't know if you remember earlier in the season, especially when Breece Hall went down, he was the next man up as, hey, here's our rookie of the year. But they utilize the run to set up their play action game, and that's where their offense is best. They do that play. They run play action and cut their, run their crosses and get the ball into their playmakers' hands based off of that run. I don't think their running game is their running game is a byproduct of what they can do faking that run on the play action pass. So I'm not overly afraid of their offense. I love to see Geno Smith playing well. I just don't want to see him play well this week.
Now, and another thing I will say, we talk a lot about third downs. Last week, now I know Lockett didn't play. That made a big difference in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But the Seahawks converted 2 of 14 third downs against the Chiefs. Not exactly what I would call the best defense in the world, but without Lockett, it took away so many options. It took away Geno Smith's security blanket. Because in the end zone, those big third down plays, he looks to Lockett first, not necessarily Metcalf.
Sure.
Now, as far as we know right now, the latest that I've seen, Lockett is participating in practice. But keep in mind, the surgery that he had was on his left hand, on his finger. So the key is, can he catch a ball and hold on to it? I can't imagine it would be overly easy for him to do that. But if I had to give my thoughts one way or another, I would say Lockett will be playing this Sunday.
Well, we'll see. I don't worry about their boundary receivers too much, I guess, unless he comes into the slot. Because it just seems like that's not who hurts us on any team. It's like we have to watch the tight ends and the slot. Anybody who's not being covered by Reed or Sauce. Not to put down Michael Carter II. He's good, but he has had on and off games. And I think he's better than he sometimes comes off to be, but we're comparing him and we're being spoiled by Reed and Gardner. So our expectations are so high of you're not allowed to give up a pass. But, it's not easy covering a slot. It's not easy doing it to the point where you expect, sometimes it's impossible. I mean, they're going to get that quick 5-yard slant. There's nothing you can do about it because you're playing off of them in zone. Here's my take on this game. My initial take, without even getting into the details, the way I see this team and our team,
mm-hmm.
when Mike White was the quarterback, we came within inches. I mean, we came in with a drop pass in the end zone to beating Minnesota. We played very well against Buffalo, but unfortunately, Mike White couldn't overcome the fumble by the Joe Flacco fiasco of him coming in and getting that fumble. But otherwise, we were in a very tight game with them. And win or lose, we were the best team that we've had in a long time. We were playing with the big boys. We were playing with the teams that are the number 1 and 2 seeds. We were right there. Then Zach Wilson came back and it all went to crap, right? And yes, we bumped into a hot Detroit team, and it's not like we got killed by them. We had every chance to beat them, even with Zach. And then Zach obviously gave us no chance to win against Jacksonville. He was absolutely awful. So to me, I'm hoping that this game is the return of Mike White, where we're going to get Mike White back and go back to being the team that we were, that was really, really competitive against the big boys, a team that could beat anybody on any given day. And then I'm looking at a Seattle team it's always tough to go into Seattle. But if you look at them the last few weeks, there's no excuse to lose to them. We have a better roster than them. They've been on a losing streak too, so they're not. It's not like we're the ones going in there down without confidence. I say that Mike White is going to give this team a lift, and I think if things go the way they should, we should beat them, and it shouldn't be a question because They're not that good. And we were playing teams like Buffalo and Minnesota that are really good. And I think that Mike White brings that out in us. That's the team we are. We are a really good team, super, super competitive, that should not be a team that loses to the Seattle Seahawks right now, given the state of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to disagree on that one. The more I look at this game, I got to tell you, I was not confident in the Jets beating Detroit or Jacksonville. I actually picked against the Jets both games. I actually believe the Jets are going to win this game on Sunday. And it's not just because of the change in quarterback. I think that Seattle is the kind of match that would work well for the Jets. And I'm actually glad they're going on the road. I really am. I think it's actually better the way things are going right now that they're not at MetLife Stadium. And, it's kind of funny to me how it seems like all the media and all these folks are talking about a revenge game for Geno Smith and for Pete Carroll. It's the revenge game. There's so many tie-ins and so many connections. And we're actually going to talk more about that tomorrow night on Green Bean Show. That might have something to do with my trivia question. Spoiler alert. There is so much crossover in this game. It's going to be personal for a lot of players. But as I look at this is not a team that scares me. I mean, I don't care. The 12-man flag doesn't scare me. Lumen Field or Quest Field, the weird roof doesn't scare me. The only thing that scares me about the city of Seattle is downtown Pioneer Square, one of the biggest cesspools I've ever been to in my entire life. But there's nobody that I am truly – yeah, I said it. I don't care. There is nobody that I am scared of. Now, there are players I respect. I respect Metcalf, but I can't think of one player on the defense who I am truly scared of. And if you want to talk about Tariq Woolen and his 6 interceptions, well, you also have to factor in the fact that he has allowed the 5th most touchdowns among all quarterbacks and taken the 3rd most penalties among all quarterbacks. And when he does allow a reception, he's allowing 15 yards per reception. Sauce Gardner is better. I said it. I'm not worried about Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner's better because you can't go by the interceptions because Sauce Gardner cannot get an interception because they don't target him.
That's fair.
Like, how is he supposed to get an interception if they don't throw the ball anywhere near him on the field? He'd have to change jerseys with somebody.
We definitely need to talk about this defense a little bit on the Seattle side.
Yeah.
One thing that they really do struggle with is covering tight ends and running backs. Boy, where have I heard that before? But I think this is a place. Can we please target CJ Uzama more than one time in this game? Come on.
He's got to become the number 1 target over Conklin. I'm sorry. Conklin's been way too inconsistent.
Yes. And here's the one thing with Conklin. They use him for checkdowns. They don't really use him down the field as much anymore. They did that a little bit earlier on, but I feel like now he's a checkdown option. He's basically Ty Johnson in the passing game.
Yeah, and he's playing like Ty Johnson was.
It's not working.
He's dropping passes.
Yeah, so give me a little more CJ. And, I don't know how Michael Carter's health is right now, but one thing he can do is catch the ball out of the backfield and make some plays if he has a blocker in front of him. So I hope Michael LaFleur can come up with a plan to get Carter or whatever running back, even Ty Johnson. I'll even take Ty Johnson in space with the ball out of the backfield because, Jordan Brooks, their linebacker, he has a lot of tackles, but he allows a lot of yards in coverage also. So I almost feel like the Jets need to play offense how other offenses have been playing against them the last couple of weeks, if you follow where I'm going with that.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Seattle's defense doesn't, register, all that great. I think Football Outsiders has them, 26 overall DVOA. So they're towards the bottom of the league, which is surprising to me. I thought that they'd be a lot higher than that, but I stand corrected. 31st against the pass, 12th, or I'm sorry, I'm reading that's Jacksonville. 21st against the pass, 25th against the rush. 26 overall unadjusted DVOA. And you look at the matchup. I mean, Saleh, coached under Pete Carroll. Their defense is, Saleh's defense is kind of bitten right off of Pete Carroll. Now, Pete Carroll doesn't necessarily stay home in the 3 deep zone that, we knew with the Legion of Boom, so on and so forth. He changes things up, and they do a lot more blitzing, and they got some guys that can get after a little bit. Uchenna Nwosu is having a great season. Jordan Brooks is one of those linebackers that's all over the place all the time. So you got some, there's some names out there. Quandre Diggs playing at the safety position. Tariq Woolen. Adam touched on him for a little bit. I think that the bark might be a little bit better than the bite. Athletic, playing way, way above his head in regards to, where he came in this league and his draft position. But, when you break it down, the stats are the stats. And he's letting up a lot of passes. They're letting up a lot of passes. But if anything, if you guys know anything, and I know you do, especially with the zones, you can confuse them and you can, mix them up and you can disguise a lot of stuff that you do from them. So that's the one caveat from me that I wish Mike White wasn't coming back to this game this time right here, because Pete Carroll knows Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh knows Pete Carroll, and they, they're gonna disguise a lot of things. They're gonna try to confuse Mike White. They're going to try to show him fronts that really aren't there and coverages that really aren't there and try to bait him into, making the wrong read. Now Mike White, what we know of him as a quarterback is that he's very efficient and he, processes the field and situations very well and gets through his progressions. But he's also been out for how long? Was it 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And, you can't tell me that anyone in that locker room isn't starting to feel the pressure. They know they got to win. I'm not saying that they can't win. I think Seattle's a winnable game for sure. And I'm with both of you that I feel for some reason I shouldn't, based off of a 4-game losing streak, especially the game, games lost to Detroit and to Jacksonville, especially after that Jacksonville game. But I feel eerily confident about going into this week. And Seattle's a tough place to play.
Well, I feel like the reason for that is justifiable. I mean, I just think I don't want to understate this. I really believe this. The difference between Mike White, and forget about future and anything like that. Let's look at what's in front of us, the reality today. The difference between Mike White and Zach Wilson is not small. There's a huge gap between the way these two guys are playing. Sure. One of them utilizes our receivers. One of them opens up our passing game enough that doesn't allow the defense to stack the box at will with no punishment for it, because the quarterback you're daring to beat you cannot beat you. So the difference between Mike White and Zach is such an incredible gap. And that's why I think if you look, we had a running game when Mike White was playing, because we don't allow the defense to just totally disrespect our quarterback. We have a quarterback that can actually drop back and throw a ball to one of our receivers. And by the way, we have some very talented receivers.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, and again, this is not a bash Zach moment, but I think you said it very subtly. I think a lot of the problem that we've had with our running game was due to the lack of respect that the defenses were showing Zach Wilson and the Jets offense with Zach Wilson at the helm. It stinks. I don't like saying it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. We watched it happen. It doesn't lie. It was like right in front of us. Yeah. We were watching them dare him to beat them, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if your offensive line can't block and the quarterback can't throw an accurate pass, then, I don't want to hear the blame going to the offensive coordinator first, because, how can you overcome those two things for, you could draw up the most brilliant play call design, but if there's no blocking and your quarterback isn't accurate, you're not going to advance the ball down the field.
Yeah. And the whole run, I'm sorry, Jeremy, but the whole, thing, the dare Zach to beat you mentality that, Bill Belichick has shown for 2 years now, and kind of laid that blueprint for some of these other teams. That's exactly what Detroit and Seattle did. Is they put run sets, run blitzes in on just about every play. They put guys in the gaps straight across the board, right? So it doesn't matter. There's no holes. And if you have 5 guys blocking and 6 guys coming, then somebody's going to always be coming free, right? And that's what causes the confusion. And you complicate that even more by adding some twists or stunts amongst those defensive linemen, so on and so forth, break down the communication. But if you're filling every gap on the defensive side, it's going to be very, very hard. You're going to have an extremely high level rep by multiple people on the offensive line to, blow open a hole, or a missed assignment on the defense. So you're bringing guys, you're going to run blitz every time, saying, I think it doesn't matter, because even if you catch us in man-to-man, or if there's a man that slips open, we don't think your quarterback is going to beat you, So it's hard to get that running. It's hard to get the running game going if there's no holes to run. It's hard to get the run blocking going if you always have 5 men blocking 6 or 6 men blocking 7, so on and so forth.
Right. And that's what I love that Mike White's going to put a stop to it. He's going to drop back. He makes
I agree.
Decisions. I get so much more excited now. Like, as soon as they say Mike White's playing, I'm like, okay, Garrett Wilson is now in play. Elijah Moore is now in play. Corey Davis is now in play. Like our receivers are that much more dangerous. Like, it's not just Mike White. It makes me think like, oh, now we have a passing game, so our talented receivers actually matter and are relevant again.
Yeah.
But I just want to say to people in the chat, I want to just shout out some people who've joined us since the beginning of the show. So J. Cole, what's going on? It's good to see you. Micro Fox, Snowball, Trin the Great is here. What's going on, buddy? And of course, Jets Mess Snacker. Those of you who don't know what that means, if you see that little mark next to Mess names to the right of his name, that is because he is a snacker. He has joined the channel. If you go to my homepage, you'll see the little join button. You get all these different little emoticons, and your chats will always get high priority chats. They only come second to super chats. So James Thompson is also here, and just want to shout everybody out. And of course, we got Watsuke in the chat as well as here on the show. Yeah. Okay, so how do we feel about offensively? I mean, let's go back to their offense and our defense. Q Williams is back. I obviously coming back. He had his first game back. He made a big impact on the first play. Then it was kind of quiet. I mean, he was obviously. I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess he wasn't 100%. But now he's had 10 days to rest. Do you think that's going to be a factor? Do you think we're going to see a even better version of Quinnen Williams this game?
I think you're going to see a better version of everyone just on 10 days of rest, coming off of 2 games within how many days? 5 days. What is it? Sunday to Thursday? 5 days. Just that alone, I think you're going to see a little bit of rejuvenation amongst the team. On top of it, like I said, I hammer home what I said before. I think they understand that they have to control their destiny right now. I can only imagine that is being hammered home into them, day in, day out by the coaching staff. You win to get in. If you win, you get in. Yeah, we need a New England loss too, but that's secondary, because if we don't win both of these games, there's no chance for anything. So
now Super Leroy goes back to the last few years, the last 20, 30 years of my memory. So I know where this is coming from. So like I've been saying, the only team we beat on the West Coast consistently is the Chargers. I know a good defense travels well, but the Jets on the West Coast is a favorite, is a nightmare. I just want to say the one thing, and I have these memories. I know where this comes from. I know where it comes from because we felt this sting a lot. But I do want to say, I feel like we've been saying it since the beginning of the year, maybe even some of us go back to the beginning of last year, that the Jets are changing. It's different. It's not the same that it was. And I want to say that just the fact that we're playing relevant games in January is evident that things have changed and it's different. The fact that we won games in September or August is different. So I think that this new regime has a brand new pen and they're rewriting a brand new Jets. That's how I feel. So although I respect the challenge of going out west, and I respect the challenge of going into a stadium like where the Seahawks do tend to have a strong home field advantage,
Mm-hmm.
I don't fear the past anymore when it comes to the Jets because I don't think this is the same organization as that past.
It's been a whole streak of breaking slumps, whether it's been division games, whether it's been not winning in September, whether it's been only having one victory in Pittsburgh in our entire history. All these things have been broken. The only thing that's left is really to make the playoffs for the first time in over a decade and to end the longest streak in the NFL. Now I think about Seattle, and I only really have one game. Now, the last time the Jets played them was 2 years ago, and they got absolutely straight. But when I think about, I could think about the next last game of Eric Mangini's career as the Jets coach, where they went up there. It was snowing in Seattle, which is pretty unusual. And the Jets absolutely were coached so badly in that game. Horrible decisions, horrible play calling, timeouts. Everything was just as bad as it could be. To me, this day, that is one of the most demoralizing losses I've ever seen regular season as a Jets fan. But the truth is, I think it's time that we stop talking about, well, this happened 10 years ago, this happened 20 years ago, so that makes it harder for us. Guys, this coaching staff and these players, they don't give a rip. They have nothing to do with that. They don't know their history. They don't know the history. And you know what? I don't want them to know their history. Robert Saleh's starting to learn it because remember when the Sky Cam fell in that one game? And he said, only the Jets. So he's starting to figure that out. But if you already go into these types of games believing you're going to lose, if you think the intangibles are already against you, guess what? You're going to lose. And these ain't your big brother Seahawks. I don't see Russell Wilson in his prime. I don't see Sean Alexander or Chris Carson. I don't see Earl Thomas or Cam Chancellor or any of these guys. I see a team that punched above its weight class, as Dom very well said, but a team that, like the Jets, I believe, has lost 5 out of 6 games. This is a team that's having a little lack of confidence issue right now as well, and they need a lot more to have happen for them to make the playoffs than the Jets do. So if the Jets could get it early, I think it's going to be very difficult for Seattle to come back in this game.
Yeah. So Steven, so I'm reading your comment. Hey guys, I saw in Jets Talk 24/7 where Woody Johnson and Robert Saleh aren't exactly getting along, and he may excuse some coaches at the end of the year. A little worried about that. I'm going to say that I think that is 100% not on Jets Talk, because Ryan did say right away, I don't believe any of this crap. So not on Ryan, but I'm saying I think the people that started that story, I believe it was the Washington Post, I call bull crap.
Sorry.
I say it's complete nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is no inside source that would leak that. Because if that was true, only 5 people would know, and none of those 5 people would ever say that in a million years. Also, I just don't agree with it, and I don't think it's true at all. I think it's 100% speculation.
Yeah, I don't think it's true at all. I saw it. I saw the press release through NJ.com. I don't know who really put the story out. I just saw it on NJ.com, and being in New Jersey, I know what a little mini publication NJ.com is. It's more about clicks and stuff like that. And I know that they would have somebody could have said that Woody Johnson didn't like Saleh's shoes when he was running up the stadium stairs for Greg Knapp Day, and they kind of took it and twisted it to make it sound like that. If it is true, which I don't think it is, there has been zero inclination by anything that we see, hear, or the people that are really, really tight inside, like the beat writers like Connor Hughes and the guy from, oh my God, why am I losing his name from The Athletic?
It was Connor. Now it's Zach
Blatt.
Rosenblatt.
Yeah, Rosenblatt, exactly.
Brian Costello and
Right,
Andy
yeah,
Vasquez.
none of those guys have even made mention of it. As a matter of fact, all I've seen and heard all year was how well Woody has acclimated to Joe Douglas really calling the shots and being on board with that. He's not the meddling type. I just don't think that he is. So I take it very, very, very loosely that article. Anybody can put anything out there and claim it as real, but
Yeah, because I mean,
especially in the Washington Post, which is well known for its ability to be a fair, objective publication.
Yeah, exactly.
But last year going into this year, we didn't change a single coach. Head coach, coordinators, assistants, nobody changed.
Yeah.
If that means at the end of the year, there's some promotions or somebody gets let go, that's one thing. Miles Austin likely will be the first of those.
Miles Austin's gonzo. Yep.
Yeah.
So that'll be the big coaching change. So you heard it here first on Wacky Wednesday.
Yeah, look, Robert Saleh is not on the hot seat. He's not, he's not on the hot seat. The only way Robert Saleh could be on the hot seat, like this is the soonest I think it could possibly happen. If we were to lose the next 2 games, and the season with 7 wins, and next year we're sitting in the the season 1-5, 2-7. I'm not saying they fire him, but that's when you'd start hear real talk or possible questions of, is Saleh on the hot seat, or is he going to end up on the hot seat if he doesn't turn the year around? But that's a lot of ifs, right? If we lose out this year, if we finish 1-5, 1-6, and that's just my opinion. That I think, then he might be on the hot seat if all of that bad happens. I don't even know if it's true that he would be, but I could tell you without any doubt in my mind, I would bet pretty much any amount of money. If I'm sure about anything when it comes to these Jets and our organization right now, Robert Saleh is not in trouble at all. Right now, these guys are in the second year of a rebuild. They are ahead of schedule. We would love to get 2 more wins. We would love to. 7 would stink. Losing the last 2 would stink. It's the absolute floor of what we wanted, but it still fits into the rebuilds and the plan and the path that we created. And remember, our 2 best offensive players have not been playing. We've been without them for a while now. So it's not just the draft next year. Next year we get the help of getting our own players back. So there's a lot to be happy about. I seriously don't think this organization and the fans should be thinking about our coaching staff and that there's going to be major changes.
Yeah.
I think that if we want to really, the big thing we could be talking about or should be talking about, and we could later, and we will be talking about all offseason, is quarterback. I mean, that's what we're going to be talking about, quarterback. I don't see us talking about coaches. I do want to read this super chat. Thank you, Jets New York 102. I appreciate it. I appreciate the super chat. And you're saying
great logo too.
Oh, I know. I love the logo.
That's very good.
Great.
That's
The
very
Jets
cool.
and the Mets and the American flag and the Superman emblem. It's really cool. Spoke with Yoda. He said, playoffs we will be. I hope so.
I don't know if I could do the playoffs thing today. I don't think my voice has it right now.
Playoffs we will be.
Actually, I do have one question. Let's say, hypothetically, the Jets win these last 2 games, but New England doesn't lose, and they take the playoffs out over us. How are you really going to feel at the end of the season?
9-8, losing out
9-8,
at 9-8, but missing the playoffs.
Yeah,
I'm going to say I think it's a hell of a season. Disappointing. Because I think we let some opportunities slip through our fingers. But I'm not going to say in the least that I'm going to feel down or disappointed. I mean, how many wins did we have the past 2 years?
6, I think.
6 combined, right?
Yeah, 6.
So you're going up 50% from, or almost 50% from that, right? Yeah, 50% off of the past 2 years. Played meaningful games late in the season. I'd say it's a win. I would take it as very positive. Disappointed, because obviously, you if you can have a catch a catch in the Minnesota game back, or
The
whatever.
John Franklin Myers roughing the passer against New England.
John
That
Franklin
ridiculous
Myers,
ball.
yeah, or the punt return in the second New England game, or if you had
The
Mike
entire
White,
Jacksonville game.
if you had Mike White in Detroit or Jacksonville, maybe the outcome's different. Who knows? So I think those kind of opportunities would be like, damn, we missed out on that. But I am not of the belief anywhere, any way, shape, or form that 9 wins with no playoffs is a disappointment.
I would be devastated, obviously, if we won the last 2 games and New England wins both games and they end up going in the beginning. Like at first, that would be devastating. It would be painful. It would suck. But I know myself, after I calmed down and a couple of weeks went by, I would remember how I felt in the beginning of the year. And I would say, wow, we were 2-14, new coach comes in. It was obviously a new fresh start. We went 4-13, but we showed some signs of having some good players. Then we came back the next year and we go 9-8. I'm going to feel pretty good about the future of the organization, regardless of quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, my realistic expectation was 7 wins, but I figured if everything went right, they could get to 10. If everything went about as well as it could have gone. And for the most part, I figured as young of a team as this was, they'd be in a lot of close games. Some they would win, some they would lose, and that's basically what has happened. But yeah, when you have as rough a second half as they have had, that does make it more difficult. I'm sure, obviously, the quarterback play has something to do with that, and they haven't been the same team since Reese went down and AVT went down. No doubt about that.
2 best offensive players.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Garrett, I think, is the only one that you could throw in the mix. But at least we know that this isn't anything that has to start all over. It needs some fine-tuning, but but the whole foundation, at least you have the foundation in place. And the quarterback is a little bit of a question. But, I will say this. I feel like this is going to be the first off season in a long time where the Jets are going to have enough capabilities to fill whatever holes they have. I felt like before with their draft picks, it's like, we're not going to be able to fill all these spots. So what can we address? And I don't feel like that's going to be an issue this upcoming off season. And that's positive.
I just want to say to Kevin really fast, Kevin J. Jets Pretzel, if you're going to use the term Stockholm Syndrome, please use it appropriately. Stockholm Syndrome means that you are carrying hope for the future. You have hope that things are going to work out. You're optimistic, but at the same time are living in reality and understanding and accepting the real situation. The real situation is, the reality is, we were 4-13, and 9-8 from 4-13 is overall, when you look back at it from the perspective of a season, is a great step forward. Now, yes, we could be technical and go into the part of the season where we were 7-4, and we could say our expectations were lifted, because they were, and we then were disappointed, and that's fine. And that's why I said I think all of us will be upset. We are upset right now about losing 4 games. I think we'll all be upset that we didn't make the playoffs. But after that time goes by, we will go back to the reality, and the reality will be 4-13 to 9-8. And that is what gives us hope for the future. That's being real, looking at our real situation and staying hopeful for the future. Looking at that. That's, to me, is the Stockholm effect. The Stockholm effect is how to get through a tough situation. And the way we get through this tough situation is by believing, yes, and being optimistic while being realistic. And if the expectation was 7-4 was going to be 12 wins this year, maybe we weren't being realistic. Especially after losing AVT and losing Breece Hall. Especially after that.
Listen, and we've dealt with, like it or not, we've dealt with subpar quarterback play for a lot of those games. You know, I think we could have gotten through, gotten through the AVT injury and the Brees injury, and still been in a different position if we had, if the cards had fell differently at the quarterback position, and it didn't. And that's just what it is. You get a young kid, and you hope for the best. And I don't know a Jet fan that's being honest with themselves that thought that Zach wasn't going to take that second year step, and he didn't. And if nothing more, we know exactly what we got from him. And I don't think that you have to give up on the kid. But I think it's fair to say that right now he doesn't give us the best option to he doesn't give us the best option to win games. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. And if we were out of it, I mean, if they wanted to keep playing Zach, I would say fine. I'd have no issue with that at all. This is not that situation. So
I'm tired of everybody blaming the Jets don't develop quarterbacks well. Look, some quarterbacks just don't work out. I mean, as Zach turns it around somehow magically for us or for any other team, good for him. But the reality is that's very unlikely. If you watch the way he's playing, if you look at his history and quarterbacks that have been benched the way he has and has played the way he has, everything points to it's over. Everything points to he's not going to end up being a good NFL quarterback. He could develop. It could turn around for him. It's never impossible. But to sit there and constantly blame the coaching and the developing of the quarterback is almost acting as if every single quarterback that's drafted into the NFL has the potential to be a great quarterback, and it's all up to coaching. And I just have, in 40 years plus of watching football, cannot disagree with that more. In my eyes, what I've seen is, for the most part, I'm not saying the organization doesn't matter. I'm not saying the team you put around the guy doesn't matter. And I'm not saying good coaching doesn't matter, because we've seen average quarterbacks get lifted by great coaches. Phil Simms by Bill Parcells is a great example. But a total bust is a total bust. I'm sorry. I don't care who you put to develop him. If he's a bust and he doesn't turn it around, there was no one that was going to help him. If it doesn't click, if he can't slow the game down, if he can't process and be able to progress through and work through progressions, make quick decisions, if you don't have that ability, you don't have that ability. And I don't care who you get as coach, no one's going to fix that.
I mean, did Jamarcus Russell fail because he had poor coaching?
And that's what I'm talking about. Ryan Leaf. Jamarcus Russell, these guys were not bust because of poor coaching. Sometimes a quarterback is a bust, meaning they cannot adapt to the NFL. It's just the way it is. Now, Sam Darnold, I think you have a little bit more of an argument that I believe that he wasn't going to be great no matter who his coach was, but I believe that Sam Darnold could have been and still can be possibly lifted, kind of the way Ryan Tannehill was lifted when he went to Tennessee. He could be lifted to be more respectable and to be okay. I believe that about him. And I'm not like a Sam guy that was mad that we let him go. I'm just saying that's an example of, I think he could have been made into respectable in a better situation, surrounded by better players, surrounded by better coaching. But when it comes to a complete bust or being a superstar quarterback, like when it's the extremes, I'm going to say I just don't believe it has to do with coaching.
It's amazing that Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are basically in a race to see who could be the third best quarterback from that class, who could be the most decent. It's pretty amazing how their careers are kind of on a very similar trajectory. It's pretty wild.
Well, we've talked about it. I think it was on this stream or this show, Jeremy, or maybe it was on one of Green Bean's shows, where we pulled down all the quarterbacks taken in the top 5 picks since 2010 or 2000, however long it was. How out of 15 quarterbacks, 4 made it. Who else was it? It was Burrow. It was Andrew Luck. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But there was double the amount of guys who didn't make it as opposed to guys that made it. Now, I'm not using that as justification. Like, it happens. No, it still sucks that you don't get the guy that you pretty much hand-picked to lead this team. Obviously, everyone wanted Zach to be the guy. He hasn't figured it out yet. I don't know if he's going to figure it out. He's got some, he's definitely got some traits that you love to see. He's young, he's athletic, the way he moves around the pocket, that athleticism around the pocket that can't be denied. It's a definite strength, his arm strength, phenomenal, but all that is moot if he can't progress and read what's happening in front of him and make the fundamentally simple throws to the right people at the right times. Case in point, the last game, I think it was the Jacksonville game, maybe it was Detroit, when he had Elijah Moore on the sideline and he threw that ball up on the sideline to Elijah Moore, and the cornerback was just sitting there, and Jeremy could have picked that ball off, if he was playing defensive back. And it's just like, there's no justifiable answer to why you throw that ball. Well, I didn't see him. How can you not see what's happening? The guy's in, he's there. It's not that they were disguising anything. There was a deep third cornerback sitting right there, and he threw it right into that deep third. So that's the kind of stuff that you have to see progression in, and that's where, if anything, we've seen regression in Zach Wilson and some of that stuff in his ability to progress, get through progressions and read defenses and see what's happening. Forget about the fundamentals and stuff like that. Like, when somebody has the yips or is broken, like, I think that stuff can get coached out of you, but you can't coach somebody. You can coach somebody until the cows come home, but if they can't read a defense, they can't read a defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say about it, because people are talking about Drew Brees. My brother was in San Diego at the time, and so we used to watch Drew Brees and talk about him a lot. Drew Brees had a decent rookie year. I mean, the numbers might not show it completely, but he had a lot of really good flashes his rookie year, and then he struggled his sophomore year, and they went out and drafted Phillip Rivers after that. And we were actually surprised. And then Drew Brees came back year 3 and was decent. And then San Diego had a problem. They had 2 good quarterbacks. And I think they blew that situation because they ended up not getting anything for Drew Brees. So I think they blew a really good situation. But I just wouldn't compare, in case anybody is, I wouldn't compare the Drew Brees. I wouldn't compare Drew Brees to Zach Wilson. Because like I said, Drew Brees struggled a little his sophomore year, but nothing, in my opinion, to the extent of Zach Wilson. And again, Drew Brees had a lot more flashes. There's a lot more hope, especially his rookie year. There were games where San Diego fans were actually pretty excited about him.
Yeah. And I think it says, again, like, we have quarterbacks that come in, not named Zach Wilson, that step in and can move the ball, can get yards, can move the offense, can extend drives. I mean, we've seen it time after time after time, right? Whether it's Josh Johnson, whether it was Mike White, whether it's whomever. Joe Flacco even had his moments.
Yeah.
So I personally don't think, listen, I'm not saying that there hasn't been situations where you scratch your head and you question, but like, the Michael LaFleur's offense works, and I know that Jets media or Jets Twitter goes crazy saying, Mike LaFleur doesn't call the same game that he does, for Zach Wilson that he does for Mike White. Yeah, he can't, because you have 8 or 9 guys in your, up at the line of scrimmage. So it takes away any aspect of running the ball, and when they're bringing blitzers nonstop and pressure, all the time, there's going to be cracks in the foundation. You can't expect the 5 guys up front to always be able to stand pat and block every single rusher, especially if there's more than 5 of them. You know what I mean? So there's a blueprint on how to beat Zach Wilson, and the NFL has figured it out. You know,
Yeah, it has been. I'm sorry. It is. I just say it's been an exceptional number. It seems lately of free rushers coming in over this season with not even a blocker,
yeah,
even covering these guys. And that does go to coaching and putting more protectors in, but having guys understand their assignments. I felt like before the Jets they only allowed so many free rushers. They just had incompetent blocking. Now it's just complete. Now it's complete free shots, and that's the part that drives me crazy because we know the Jets quarterbacks are not getting any roughing the passer calls. I don't think the Jets have had one all season, and that's what drives me crazy because we have to earn those calls apparently, which is the typical bias BS of the NFL. We have to earn them at some point, and the only way we'll ever do that is to win big games.
Yeah. And I can get with this comment from Chode.
Yeah. I don't think of it as his third down plays. I think of it as his red zone plays.
Well, I think it's a little. I think he gets, like if there's anything to knock Mike LaFleur is sometimes it seems that he's tries to be too cute, right? Third and one, spread 5 wide receivers spread, no one in the backfield from shotgun,
crazy.
All that kind of stuff, but.
He doesn't seem to get the yard, but also I agree. Third down, he'll do questionable things, but also what drives me crazy is every time we get into the red zone for the last 4 games, at least once he tries one of these ridiculous things, right? I mean, first play of the game for us against Jacksonville, we get the ball inside the 20.
Yeah.
First play, and he rolls out Strevler as a wide receiver. First play. I mean, he goes right to being cute. It's like, that's not what you do, man. When you get a turnover right there like that, first play you do is you pop a slant right into the end zone. Garrett Wilson on a slant. That's the first thing you do. You ride the momentum of the turnover. How many times have we seen every other team in the NFL do that? They get a turnover somewhere inside 35 yards of the other, of the end zone, and the first thing they do is they take a shot and they pop it into the end zone. And it's like we get all cute and do some stupid play.
Yeah, but I will say this. How many people were really talking about the red zone offense before the Minnesota game went down? I don't recall anybody, any content creator, any beat writer, any fan in the chat talking about how the red zone offense was failing. Because up to that point, it was pretty much right in the middle of the pack in the league. But since then, yes, it has absolutely gone downhill. Part of it, I'll give credit to Minnesota for doing as well as they did. I will give them some credit on it. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it took forever for them to figure out, you know what, we might want to throw to a tight end. We might want an extra tight end in the spot when we're right on the goal line. And lo and behold, it actually resulted in a touchdown. So yeah, sometimes I know that the offensive line is doing a terrible job right now, and you don't have the confidence in your running game to drive the ball 1 or 2 yards. And when you don't have that, you might feel like you need to get creative. I don't necessarily think this is what LaFleur wants to do. I think that he thinks this is what he has to do.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, if we're talking straight up Shanahan offense, their goal is to hand the ball off, is to run it. Is that run the outside zone, gain 4 yards a clip, 4 yards a clip, 4 yards a clip, play action, 4 yards a clip, 4 yards a clip, 4 yards a clip, play action. Drop back, quick slant, crossing run, crossing patterns, pound the ball. We haven't been, we haven't been able to do that. Now some of that is Brees not being there, but I don't think all of it, because Bam Knight has stepped in and has been more than serviceable on numerous occasions. Not recently. The past couple games I don't think it's necessarily Bam's fault. I just think the running game as a whole has been stuck in neutral for reasons that we've already touched on 3 times over.
Chode, I just want to say, Chode, I'm playing against you in a championship game fantasy in Jets. I think it's in Jets Top 24/7 League. So get ready to be taken down. Actually, I'm in big trouble because I have Henry, and he might not play. So that's the guy who's been carrying my team. And now for the final game, for the championship game, if I could finally win a fantasy league, I lose my best player. I feel like the Jets. I feel like I'm the Jets.
Yeah, but at least you got to the championship.
It feels pretty good. I got to 2 championships. Jets Talk 24/7 in that league, and in proud New York Jets fan in Nick Shine's league. I made the championship. I'm in the finals.
Yeah, I'm in the championship of that league too. Well, the consolation championship, but a championship nevertheless.
The consolation.
I'd be more proud of that than I would be like third place, because at least
I'm in one championship myself in Gunny Gumby's league, and I barely made the playoffs, and I've just been crushing it since. So.
It's been injury after injury, whether it's Cooper Kupp, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth, Javonte Williams at the beginning of the season. It has been losing Dak Prescott at the beginning of the year. It's been crazy. And then in my league where I was absolutely dominant, I lost Deebo Samuel and lost I was 3 games up on the second place team in that one league, and I wound up losing by about 4 or 5 points. Just, but it is what it is. Yeah.
I see Twisted is here. What's going on, Twisted? I see you out there.
What's up, Twisted?
Twisted, what's up, brother?
This cracks me up.
So the one aspect of this game that we haven't touched on yet, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Is DK Metcalf on the outside? He normally, he moves back and forth to both sides, and we know that our cornerbacks don't trail. They play left and right. What concerns me is not necessarily the defensive player himself, but the overall height, weight, speed that DK Metcalf offers against DJ Reed. What are your guys' thoughts about that? DJ Reed has, he's shown that, he's a phenomenal defensive back, but he also shows that he makes those great plays with his, making up speed on, it looks like sometimes, the wide receivers can get a step or two on him. He has that great, makes up speed and gets back and gets his arm up, so on and so forth. But, he's what is he, 5'9"?
Yeah.
5'9".
5'9", and Metcalf's what, 6'4"?
Yep.
So, well, first of all, Trin, we don't really do that. We don't, because we don't play man. We don't line up man. We play the same side of the field. So
even when we do play man very little,
but we stay on our
overall,
side of the
but
field.
they still stay on their side of the field.
Right.
And you can't change now.
Right.
You can't change with 2 games left in the season.
No.
Right. So Sauce, even if he plays man, he's playing the guy that lines up on his side, right on that boundary.
Yeah.
So the way I feel about it is I know he's not supposed to, it seems like a mismatch. How the hell can Reed possibly cover him and all that? I just know that we've played a lot of good teams that have a lot of good wide receivers like Buffalo. We've played Cincinnati. We've played, we play teams with excellent wide receivers, and Sauce and Reed have held up. So whatever it is, whatever his height is, whatever technique he uses, I think the reason we have him at such a good price, and we even have him on this contract, is because his height and everything, that he plays above what he's supposed to be. But right now, he's just playing well. So does that mean he's going to shut him down and not give up anything? I'm not going to say that. But I don't think that's the way we'll lose the game, because Reed is unable to cover him.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case either. And again, it comes back to the pass rush. If we can exploit what is a beat up offensive line and not playing quite so well right now, that's going to reduce the impact that these wide receivers can make on the game. Because again, I do expect Lockett to play in this game. Maybe not every single snap, but I do expect him to play the majority of the snaps, and certainly in key passing situations.
It's
you're crazy.
It's a tight matchup. I just know that and maybe I've gotten spoiled, but I'm just like at a point where I don't feel like we get beat by the wide receivers on other teams. I feel like our problem is the middle of the field, running back, slot receivers, and tight ends. That's what kills us. That's the thorn on our side, and that's what I'm worried about, and that's what I think about.
And that's why losing a Will Dillsley is going to hurt them. Now who are the tight ends that we got? Well, that we got to watch out for? Noah Fant. If he plays, Cody Parkinson, I think, is another one.
Cody Parkinson, yeah, he's much more of a move tight end, wide receiver, kind of a big slot guy.
Right. Yeah, he had a little
Chance more of the
attention.
inline blocker, kind of that middle of the field guy.
Yeah, but Walker is the quote unquote bell cow. That's like the fascination. We need a bell cow. I need a bell cow running back. Well, I don't know if you do, but Walker definitely seems to be that for them. No doubt about it. Why are people scared the Pats will win out? From what we've seen the Pats this year, what make anyone thinks the Pats can win a critical game in December? I don't know how you come back from 2 losses like that. First of all, hey, V, man, good to see you. I don't know how you come back from 2 losses like that and come back and win 2 games against 2 division opponents who want nothing more than to finish off your season. I don't think the Patriots are going to win out. I think the Jets are going to have this control. It's up to them.
I don't expect it to happen, but at the same time, it's not impossible, right? Because Miami doesn't have Tua, and whatever people want to say about Tua, Miami is a better team with Tua, or they've been a better team with Tua. They just are. I mean, he struggled as of late, no question about it, but they won a lot of games in a row in the middle of the season with him. So the fact that they're going in with Bridgewater is not a great thing for us. And then the scary thing about the Buffalo game is not that I'm worried Buffalo can't beat New England. It's just that there's an outside possibility that Buffalo is not going to be playing that game very hard, because if somehow if the number 1 seed has been decided, if Kansas City loses and Buffalo wins, and Buffalo clinched the number 1 seed, that's a problem, because now you got Bridgewater for Miami against New England. And then you'll have Buffalo. That game is a wash because they're not going to use Josh Allen. They're not going to use any of their starters. And I have a feeling obviously New England would be able to win that game. So there is something to be concerned about. But I think most of us feel, even with all that, we feel like if we win out, we're going to be in the playoffs. I think that we all believe and feel that.
And at the same time, to me, if I'm the Bills, if I'm a Bills player, and I know we have the number 1 seed, don't sit me, because they already have a bye week to begin with. I wouldn't want to take 2 weeks off, because that just might add to the rusty factor of it. Now, if somebody's hurt and they need a little bit of recovery time, that's different. But still, you can only have so many inactive players. Now, maybe you play Josh Allen for the first half or something like that. But to be honest, if you already have the 1 full week off anyway, I don't know if it's good for a team to take 2 weeks off. Just my thought. I think maybe we're giving this a little bit too much attention.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's definitely true. And sometimes a relaxed team that has nothing to lose is a dangerous team. We've seen that as well. And also, they'll have the legendary Greg Van Mangold on the field. So how are the Patriots going to contend with the legendary Greg Van Mangold?
I don't think Mean Joe Green or Bob Lilly, Randy White, they would not have known what to do with the greatness that is Greg Van Mangold.
So, but honestly, I'm more worried about us winning out. We don't even have to think about that stuff because we still have to win out. And although I am pretty confident about that Seattle game, the Miami game is very different. And the combination of saying I'm confident we're going to win Seattle and beat Miami combined as 2 things. I'm not being a doubter or a hater. I love my Jets and I'm going to be rooting for it. But before we worry about New England, we've got to take care of our own business, and it's not going to be easy. I mean, neither of our 2 games are going to be easy. So we got to win 2 wars here, and then so the New England thing will work itself out, but we're going to war 2 weeks in a row, and we've got to come out victorious twice, and we got a long road ahead of us.
Yeah, 1 game at a time. Let's get through Seattle.
But I want to thank you, V-Man, for the super chat. I really appreciate your generosity and supporting the channel. It means a lot. The $10 goes a long way. Again, it helps this channel keep going. So I appreciate those of you that are able to become members or do super chats. It really does help the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. You're saying clip the Hawks. It's a good way to say it. That's what they do in Iowa. In Iowa, that's how they take care of things. They know the right way to do it. You don't hit the hawk with a baseball bat. You don't chase the hawk and try to grab its feet and swing it around. You clip them. This way they can't fly no more. Right, Jacob? Everybody in Iowa, before they're allowed to graduate high school, has to clip a hawk.
I'm a Jets fan. Had to do it by the end of middle school. I understand.
Yeah. Where's he been? I ain't seen him in a minute.
I don't know. Haven't seen him in a while either. Strange. I think the way that he just got so beat down in the proud New York Jets fan fantasy league, I think he had to go into hiding for a while.
I will have world domination. So Twisted is.
It depends how big your world is.
Twisted's bringing on a new friend. He's saying, "Welcome in." Well, we don't see him yet,
NSD.
right? But he's saying, "Welcome in, my bud NSD." He's a new subscriber. He has to wait 5 minutes. Okay, when he comes in, when NSD comes in, we'll definitely give him a warm welcome. Thank you, Twisted. Appreciate it. I love that. I make them wait. I forget to change it. I usually make it that 1 minute. That you have to be subscribed for a minute just to get rid of the crap, but it defaults to 5 minutes. So if I forget, it's a 5-minute thing. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, Trin the Great says, I'll keep saying it. We need to punch Gino in the jaw.
I can't deal with the headlines. Gino delivers knockout blow to the Jets. I can't deal with the headlines are going to write themselves. I can't.
We cut the guy that punched him instantly.
Yeah, he was gone within a day. Then of course, Rex signs him. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's on that Buffalo team that knocks the Jets out of the playoffs in 2015. Out of contention. Of course.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna go to bed. The way I'm feeling, I definitely need to get my rest. I'm back at work tomorrow. So it has been good being on with you all. I will be doing some more recording later in the week. I just put a couple of quick 5-minute videos up today, so go and check those out if you would at New York NY Sports Wicker Media. I appreciate it very much, and pleasure speaking with you guys as always. And go Jets!
Thank you, Watsuke.
All right, Adam.
Get
Later,
better,
dude. Feel better, man.
All right, good night.
So Tua should be done for good. You know, I don't know where the line is on that. Look, I personally, as an older person that looks down at, looks at these kids and sees my students in them, I'm greatly concerned for him. I'm very, very concerned for Tua as a human being. I really am. I don't know where the line is. Like, what rule could the NFL do to force it? Like, how does that work? Like, that would have to be very defined, wouldn't it? Like, what it would mean for the NFL to come and say, we're not going to medically clear you to play in the NFL, because once the concussion heals, I mean, it doesn't totally heal, but it's really hard to show evidence of CTC, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's really, like, at what point does the NFL say it? Like, is there a certain number of concussions? Because it's not always volume that matters. It's also the severity of the concussion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a measurement medically that you could use to determine when a football player should be forced into retirement. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any ground to stand on to force somebody into retirement. The only thing that the NFL could do is if their doctors wouldn't clear him to play, he can't play. But I think it has more to say. And I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and accuse Miami of any wrongdoing in regards to the Tua situation. But Miami has been known for doing a lot of shady shit, so them playing funny wouldn't be surprising in the least. And I just hope that the human in me hopes that nobody in the Miami organization puts, their season or the success of their season above the health and well-being of one of their players, especially one that they're paying millions of dollars for.
Yeah. So, I mean, somebody said it, and it's true. Wayne Corbett still suffers from the concussions.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
He doesn't regret it. He says he doesn't regret it. He gave everything he had for the Jets. That was just who he was. But he's suffering.
Yeah.
And Al Toon.
Well, look at Luke Kuechly, retired at the peak of his career at 28 years old because he had 3 concussions in 1 year, and he said that's enough. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to live a life with my children at some point.
Didn't Tony Romo retire early because of concussions?
Tony Romo was old.
Oh no, or is it Troy Aikman? I thought one of them shortened their career a little bit because of concussions. I'm not sure, but I know that I mean, I know about Altoon and Wade Corbett as Jets that are known, victims of concussion that have impacted them pretty severely.
Yeah. Well, there's been oodles of guys, man. We can say it until we're blue in the face, but you just hope that that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, it feels very shady, that Miami situation and what happened. I don't know the exact details. I'm not going to say anything definitively, but it felt shady.
Well, in their defense in the last game, I mean, the NFL is supposed to have spotters there that are supposed to, really supersede what Miami wants to do. If Tua didn't say anything until a couple of days afterwards, and then a couple of days afterwards they have him checked and he's in protocol. If anything, if I'm Tua, if I'm the Dolphins, I don't play him the rest of this year. You can worry about the future in the future, but he's got to just take it back. And I'm not saying that as a Jet fan. Sure, I want to play. I'd rather play their backup. Let's call it what it is, but not for those reasons alone.
Right. I mean I think pretty much. I mean, any respectable fan agrees that we don't hope for bad things to happen to players on other teams. Like, we don't hope for them to have real injuries. Like sometimes it's like, okay, like that guy sprained his ankle. He's going to be out 2 weeks and missed the game against us. What a pity. Wink, wink. Right. But none of us really wish real harm on players, or we shouldn't. And, aside from being a Miami Dolphin and being the guy, one of our rivals, and being the quarterback for one of our rivals, outside of that, and that's a sports fan kind of thing, he's given no reason for anyone to have ill will towards him as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good kid. He hasn't done anything to hurt anybody. As a matter of fact, he has a foundation to help people. So, I mean, he's a good kid. And he deserves better. Like, as far as, he deserves to have people looking out for him and making sure that he doesn't destroy his life. Because at the end of the day, football is just football. It really is. I mean, it doesn't come ahead of life.
Yep, you're right about that, man.
So
you're right about that, Jeremy.
Curtis Martin said playing in the NFL is like getting a 30 car accidents in 60 minutes. It's hard to argue that, right?
That's funny.
Like, it's hard to argue it. It's hard to say that's a crazy statement, because they're hitting so hard, and like, it's really, really bad. It's a violent sport. I think that TV softens it up sometimes, and sometimes when it fails to soften it up, that's when you see a million flags get thrown. Like, when even the TV can't hide the violence, that's when you see flags. I think the other night there was a tackle. Boy, man, it was a dirty tackle. The guy
with
the helmet, and 50 flags went flying the second the hit happened. The moment he hit him, it was like 10 different flags went flying. Every ref out there threw their yellow flag.
Yeah, that was textbook. That was the safety, what's his face, from the Chargers, and that he deserved to be removed from the game. Like, if you're letter of the law, that was a textbook what not to do if you're a defensive player. Defenseless receiver who's not looking, you lead with the crown of your helmet and you strike him in the head. Come on, man. Derwin James. Thank you, Brian J.
Derwin James. Yeah, that was just a nasty.
Yeah.
I was
like, now to some extent, I get it. Football is a physical, violent sport, but there's ways to kind of,
Well, you know why they don't get concussions in rugby, right? It's because when you don't wear a helmet, you don't go helmet first into somebody else's head. Like, you don't go head first into somebody else's head if you don't have a helmet on, because you're going to hurt yourself. That's the reason. I mean, there's a reason why these sports that don't have these big helmets don't have the same injuries, because they're not throwing their head first into their head, So that's probably the reason. It has something to do with it. It's like, rugby is a different kind of game. Yeah, you're not going to have ears. If you play rugby long enough, you don't have ears. But I don't think they take the hard hits to their heads in the NFL because of the helmets. I mean, most of the big hits and the head, but it's not just that. It's also the for the quarterbacks, it's their head hitting the ground when they're tackled because they're thrown to the ground by these giant men that kind of just, pick them up and just body slam them to the ground. And sometimes their head just whacks into the ground.
Yeah. As Tua's did that last game.
Yeah. And some people maybe are built differently. Like when you go down, I don't know, maybe, your neck, everybody's shaped a little different. Maybe, different instincts of what your body does. Some players, like his head goes straight down for, I don't know if every quarterback I've seen get tackled that happens. I don't know. Maybe some of them study jiu-jitsu and judo and know how to fall a little better and like instinctively keep their shoulders up or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's a problem, man. It's a problem. It sucks. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So hopefully he's okay and they do the right thing with him. That's all you could say. But I would say don't expect Tua to play against us. I seriously doubt he's playing again this year.
I would hope for his safety he doesn't play again this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think the players want it, like on the other team. Like, I don't think anybody really wants to be the guy that tackles somebody and like whoever tackled him and made that hit when he had to get, to the hospital and his hands were all messed up. You know how scary that must have been for that player?
Yeah.
Like thinking if like he's permanently hurt or paralyzed or even worse, something, you have to live with that. Even though you did your job and you didn't do anything wrong, you still got to live with it. And that's another thing. The other players have to live with what happens. So players are supposed to tuck their chin when they get tackled. That's a good point. I'm serious because a lot of guys get thrown down like that, but they don't get concussions. And I wonder sometimes if it's just the way he goes down, and like, I don't know. It's I mean, I'm no expert on it. I just think it sucks. And I hate it. I hate injuries. I'd rather have every team be healthy and have Brees Hall and AVT and Becton. I'd rather
Max Mitchell and
right. I'd rather imagine there's just no injuries and the best teams, like every team gets to play at full strength. I'll take that. I'll take that. Like I'll let everybody have their players back. I'll take that in a second because look at how many guys we got on the shelf that have so much talent, that have so much ability to be great. I would love it, man, if we could. Can you imagine getting to see those guys on the field all at once? I mean,
Right.
It's almost hard to even say it's going to happen next year because you kind of get the feeling that we're just going to have injuries again. But can we just have a world where Brees Hall and Becton and AVT and Garrett Wilson and are all on the field at the same time it's going to be good.
Yeah, we get that. It's called the off season.
Yeah. I just want all those guys back at the same time, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. But again, there's so much talk about quarterback and what we're going to do in the offseason. I don't want to jump ahead because here we are. We got a game against Seattle. And I think DK is someone to look out for, obviously. But, like, what's your biggest fear? If I tell you, Dom, the Jets lost. Like, if I fast forward and say they lost, what do you think? And let's say I tell you they lost 24-14, right? Or 24-17. They lost. What's your reasoning? What do you think would be the culprit? Why did that happen?
Well, that's a tough question. My biggest fear is that, we watched what the offense was with Zach Wilson at the helm and the struggles that we've had with Zach Wilson at the helm. And my biggest fear coming into this game is that, like I said, Mike White comes in and, whether it's rust or whether it's the ribs or whether it's, a complex confusing scheme that Carroll brings in that, the offense sputters. That would be my biggest that's my biggest fear. Now, I'm much more confident in Mike White at the helm than any other quarterback on a roster, So I want to see him get, I want to see him play like the player I think he is or can be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So him not playing to that level for whatever the reason is, whether his ribs or, he takes a hit on the ribs and he's, struggling the rest of the game. And, we got to see, the Strevler package a lot more. We see, the corpse of Joe Flacco back in there at the helm. Those are things that concern me or worry me.
Well, we'll worry about that in the off season, Twisted. But my big fear is I think that they just run the ball on us easily, do the short stuff, eat us alive, eat up clocks, 6-7 minute drives, and we do break. It's like we bend and we break, and like they get the big plays and they end up getting touchdowns. And that Mike White comes in and we can't score in the red zone still. And that's still going to be a problem. Then we move the ball, but we're not scoring touchdowns. And then we get outscored and lose. That's my biggest fear, that happens. I don't feel terrified or worried or thinking that's what's going to happen. But that's my fear of all the game. Like anytime we go into a game with against these teams, it's always that we're not going to be able to get off the field in third down. They're going to eat us alive with the short stuff. And that we're just not going to be able to get the ball in the end zone, and lose. And, it sucks to admit it, but that's my fear. So, I mean, what are the ways that we do to avoid that is, I think that what do we have to do defensively? I think it's get back to pressuring Geno. Like, I think we have to pressure Geno Smith and make him super uncomfortable all day.
Yeah. So I think the perfect plan, in any game, let alone this one, that play, I think you have your best chance if you own the time of possession. Dominate would be great, but if you have the advantage in the time of possession, you win the turnover battle, right? Whether it's you force more turnovers than you get, or you just don't give up any. At least I'll say that at least come equal in the turnover battle. But if you win the time of possession and you force the turn and we are up in the turnover battle, I think this team as constituted has as good of a chance as any in the league to win. I mean, that's our keys to success. The third one being really is our third down production. We need to extend drives. We can't go 3 and out or 5 and out or 6 and out or whatever. We need to we need to have some long drives. Our defense has played its worst, and we're 6th overall defense in the league. Our defense is as solid as they come. Borderline elite. Definitely plays elite at times, not all the time, but where do they get in trouble most is when they're on the field way too much, right? So we need to get off the field on third down. We need to own the time of possession, and to do that, we need to extend plays on offense. And to extend plays on offense, you're going to have to establish some sort of running game, which we haven't been able to do. Hopefully Mike White being in there changes that. And we need to win the turnover battle, or not lose the turnover battle, I should say.
Right. No, it's true. It's and that's been a big part of it. We win the turnover battle. We beat Buffalo. We lost the turnover battle. We lost to Buffalo.
Yep.
When you look at those 2 games against Buffalo, that's pretty much what it was.
Sure.
And then I believe when we beat Miami, we won that turnover battle, right? I mean, I think if we check back every game, that statistic of when we had more turnovers, that would probably is going to be very telling about like the games that we won versus the games that we lost.
Yeah.
And I remember it because it seemed like, I mean, anytime a quarterback played with any efficiency for us and protected the ball, we would win games.
Yep.
Right. The problem is when we don't protect the ball. So I think it goes without saying we need to not have turnovers. Mike White scares me a little. You broke down the tape for us. It's not like we could sit here and say, well, the great thing about Mike White is he never turns the ball over. It's not true. He takes some chances. He throws he definitely throws passes that are scary and concerning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you broke it down yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think it was, what was it, Minnesota,
Mhm.
where he had 2 interceptions? He had 2 interceptions in the Minnesota game? Yes, he did.
Mm.
He had one that was the deflection off of Corey Davis.
Right.
Or was it Corey Davis or Conklin? One of them. The deflection off their hands.
One of those two. I know that because I remember.
I think it was Corey Davis. It hit his hands. It hit his pads. Bounced up right into the guy early on in the game. And then he had the late one, which he was trying to make something happen at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the last drive of the game.
Yeah,
No.
I don't count the last one. That's just like desperation, chucking the ball kind of thing,
Yeah. Listen, I think Mike White is exactly who we think he is. He's exactly who he is. He's a guy that plays with 100% intensity and every fiber in his being to win the game. He's a good fast processor of what's happening. He's quick with the ball. He lacks I'm not going to say he has a weak arm because he doesn't have a weak arm at all. But he doesn't have, he's got average arm strength. He doesn't have that zip that Josh Allen has. He doesn't have that zip that Justin Herbert has. He doesn't have the zip that Zach has.
Right.
But he doesn't need it because if you process what's happening fast enough, he can still make every throw. Listen, in the last film breakdown we did of him, we showed him throwing 30-yard outs from the opposite hash to the sideline. You can't say he's got a noodle arm and make those throws.
People kind of, someone will say something, people will read it, and it'll become this just false, kind of
like
thing.
the whole thing that he's checked down Charlie. Like I don't think that's the case at all.
Right.
I think that sometimes the decisions that he makes from being in an elite and being able to get through progressions fast and knowing what he's dealing with, he chooses the correct play, which is the swing or the dump off or the little stop route, 3-yard stop route, so on and so forth.
I think what people don't understand is the reason that you see him doing so many of those checkdowns is because you're not used to it, because when Zach was in, he wasn't getting there. He was scrambling. He was taking sacks. He was running for his life. That was the problem, is that he couldn't get through the progressions and know, I need to check it down now.
Yeah.
And that's why we move the ball when Mike White is playing quarterback, because he knows how to do that.
Yeah.
And we're not always going to like it as fans, because sometimes checking down is going to mean living to fight another day. It means that we're going to punt the ball. It means that the drive is over and that he's just taking down some extra yards, just to get something for field position. And that's just part of football. And like sometimes we're not going to throw the ball past the first down marker every single time on third down during the entire game. And it's just, that's not how the game is played. It's more of a chess match. And sometimes the chess match says, just check it down, be safe, punt them, pin them on their side of the field, and play the field position game.
Yeah. I'll say this about Mike White, and this is the hill that I stood on the whole time. Do I think Mike White is the future franchise quarterback for the Jets? No. I don't think, there's nothing in me that says or thinks that that's the case. But there's also no 100%. I'm 100% sure that he's the quarterback right now on the roster that gives us the best chance to win. And that's what we're about.
And I really think that the major majority of Jet fans feel that way. I mean, I think there's some infighting about, I don't want Mike White to be our quarterback, like permanently moving in the future, and he's not good enough. I mean, there's all kinds of that. There's people that do like him and think maybe he is. All that aside, I think as a fan base, with the exception of maybe 2%, for real, like for a very small minority, I think that the majority of the fan base, the major majority of the fan base, all agree that Mike White is the best quarterback right now we have on our roster and gives us the best chance of winning. I mean, I think we're literally down to 2 or 3 people that we see in our chats that are still fighting that reality.
Yeah.
Phenom comes in. I saw him the other day on whose show? On Jake Asman's show. He came in after me. And I was like, there's my boy. That's my man, Phenom. That's my man in the Bronx. What's going on, dude? Happy holidays. If protected, Mike White can and will light you up. Mike White thread the needle. See the pass to C. Davis in the Vikings game.
Yeah, listen, I'm not.
What about the pass that Berrios dropped? To me, that was a beautiful pass.
I'm not in any way, shape, or form dissing the quarterback play of Mike White. I just don't know. Like I said, am I ready to give him, 4 years, $100 million to say you're my guy for the next 4 years? No, I'm not ready to do that yet.
And I don't think anybody will. I don't think it, I think he's going to cost us some money, but I don't think, is anyone going to be really prepared? I mean, we have to look and see what he does over the next couple of games, right?
Yeah.
Because they're meaningful games. I mean, this is, we get to see him in a real situation. This is him in a real situation. And I got to remind people, how many games has he started in his career? I know he's played in 7. I think, he started 6 or 5? I think he may have only started 5 games in his NFL career. So, I don't care what his age is and if he's a veteran. He's only played in 5 games, meaning as far as experience and feeling the NFL and feeling the reps and being in games, he hasn't had a lot of opportunity. And I'm not starting to make an argument that Mike White should be our guy. But I will say, in fairness to him, I don't know if there's evidence that he can't be an average to above average quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see the evidence that he can't be. Like, what's the evidence that he can't be? And when you broke that tape down, I didn't see that. I saw a quarterback that had the hardest thing to have, right? The number one thing of all things. He has the ability to read the defense, see the play develop, and make quick and decisive decisions.
Yep.
That's the thing that you can't even measure, right? That's what Zach doesn't have that right now.
Correct.
That's the hard thing that quarterbacks don't have that stop very talented quarterbacks from being successful in the NFL. Mike White appears to have it, which to me means I don't know what his cap is or his ceiling is, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what his ceiling is.
Listen, I'm confident in Mike White, and I didn't say that. I wouldn't have said that, in the preseason, because I thought that he was just Mike effing White from the Cincinnati Bengals game, that ended up in Canton, where his jersey and the ball ended up in Canton. But he's grown on me. He's grown on me from what I've seen and and the film that I've broken down is that he's better quarterback than people think. And I'll tell you this much: there's not one team in the AFC that wants to see the Jets in the playoffs, a Mike White led Jets team in the playoffs. I can assure you that. Not one, with the respect that our defense has and the fact that they know it's not Zach Wilson or something that you can just completely shut down. No one wants to face us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and I'm with you, Phenom. He gives us the best chance to win. He is the best version of our team. The best version of the New York Jets is when Mike White is playing quarterback, because then we have not only a great defense, but we have an offense that's capable and competent in the sense that we can throw the ball and utilize our receivers, which then opens up the run game. We've seen some of our best offense when Mike White is playing.
I'm telling you, I'm banking on a big game from our running backs, whether it's a combination of Zonovan and Michael Carter or mostly Zonovan. I think that I think that you're going to see a big rebound against Seattle, and that's because because they're going to have to pay some sort of respect to Mike White.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's welcome NSD to the channel. And
NSD.
good to see you. NSD. I don't know what that stands for, but you know me. I'll come up with different interpretations of that as we go. Like no smoking, dummy. That's my first one. But welcome to the channel. So what do you think of this? Mike White seems like a standard starting caliber quarterback in the NFL.
I don't know.
I'd be happy with that.
Listen, if we get that, absolutely. I don't know if I'm ready to say he's one of the best 32 in the league yet. That still has to be proven. Like I said, I mean, of the 7 games that he's played, he's gotten hurt in 4 of them.
That's a problem.
There's something to be said there.
Yep,
there's something to be said
problem.
there.
It's a problem. I mean, whether it's like people say, "Oh, it's not his fault," or it was fault, anybody would have got. It doesn't matter. Like, because sometimes people have bad luck. Look at Becton. I mean, it's horrible luck, but it's just a reality. Some players just get injury bugged their entire career, and we have to hope that with Mike White, it was just a freak kind of thing, and then kind of dwindles away. And the best comparison I could do for that is Phil Simms. Phil Simms was banged up and injured, for the first few years of his career.
Yeah.
And had all kinds of injuries and things like that, and then ended up being very solid and playing for a lot of years without injuries. So, listen,
there's a post in here. Who was it? Brian J. Name a starting quarterback better and one worse than White. Well, there's a ton that are better. I mean, I don't think we have to do that.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but I'll say this: I think Mike White's career trajectory is yet to be determined because he hasn't done it long enough. But would it surprise me if he ends up, just say he has a ceiling of like Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill or Jared Goff, somebody who's a good game manager who sometimes in a pinch will win the game for you. I could see Mike White turn into that, and if he turns into that, and he's and it's for the Jets, it's great. But I'm not ready to say he's Kirk Cousins yet. Yeah.
Now, worse than White, that's really easy. McSorley for Arizona.
Zach
Wilson, Zach Wilson's the easiest one, right? That's the obvious answer. Zach Wilson is the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Here's one for you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Right now, would you rather have Mike White or Mac Jones?
See, I'm going to say Mike White. I think Mike White played better in those few games than I've seen Mac Jones play this year. So I'll take Mike White. I mean, his numbers, it might be hard to make an argument that he's better than these guys based on limited action. Yeah. And I agree. It's hard to judge somebody with such a limited sample size. But based on the tape you broke down and what we're watching in him, he's better than him. He's better than Macaroni Jones.
Yeah. Now, Brian also says, is he just below Cousins? I like I said, it's such a small sample size. I don't know. I don't know if that's disrespecting Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins throws for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns year after year, right?
Yeah, we're not going to start comparing Mike White to Kirk Cousins, but I will say he's better than Russell Wilson this year. No, I mean clear as day. Russell Wilson is awful this year. He's horrible.
Yeah.
Right.
I see the Daniel Jones comparisons being thrown out here. I actually think that Daniel Jones is a good quarterback.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I think he finally has a good coach.
And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that I think Mike White's a bad quarterback, but I just happen to be a little bit higher on Daniel Jones than the average Joe. I think. Can
you imagine if Daniel Jones had a premier receiver, like just a healthy, true number one receiver with the offensive line this year and the play he's getting and the coaching he's getting? He's playing with no wide receivers.
Daniel Jones is on his 4th offensive system in 4 years.
Yeah.
Something to be said about that. They're saying, and and like you said, he doesn't have a wide receiver that would probably make our practice squad. Irvin Charles is better than most of the wide receivers that he's throwing to day in, day out.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, not to switch to a Giants channel or anything like that, but Danny Dimes is at worst an average middle tier of the league quarterback at worst.
Yeah. I'd say Daniel Jones in the top 16. I would.
Yeah, I put him right there around 16, 15, 16, 17, like, give or take a spot or two. But, like, that's kind of where I'd land them, which is not bad nowadays. I mean, it's not easy, right? Because only 15 teams get to have a quarterback like that.
Well, no, and if you think about it,
half of the league doesn't.
There's 32 teams in the NFL, and there's probably, and this might be aggressive number, but I'd probably say that there's 8 franchise quarterbacks, right? And then the other 20, the other 24 teams are hoping that they can, bridge the gap until they find their franchise quarterback, or they, draft one and develop and figure it out and develop it. Get lucky.
Yeah. So I like this. This is funny. A cheap man's Josh Allen. It makes sense because of the coaching staff of the Giants. It makes sense that he'll look like a little mini cheap version of Josh Allen. And he is a much cheaper, less expensive version of Josh Allen, for sure.
Yeah. He's going to get paid.
He's definitely going to get paid because that's the way the NFL is. There just aren't enough men alive to supply 32 teams with competent quarterback play.
That's right.
If you can play average or just be able to fill the position of quarterback in this league, you're going to get paid a lot of money. What is that? I mean, what do you think? I mean, 30 million is now becoming just for the average 15th best quarterback, right? Like if you're a good starting NFL quarterback, you're 30 million, right?
I mean, that might be on the high side, I think. But we're heading that way. I would say 20 to 25. I mean, if you think about it, the 5th year option on Sam Darnold was $19 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anywhere between 19 and 25 is what your middle of the road quarterbacks are going to get, and then your better quarterbacks are going to get the $30 and $40 million.
Crazy.
It is nuts. It's a crazy league.
That's why I'm thinking how much realistically he's going to play one more game and then Hurts will be back. So everyone's thinking Minshew. They're saying 15 million. Do you think that's realistic? I mean, he's a backup quarterback.
No, I don't.
I don't think anything up.
I don't think it's that number is way crazy. If in my opinion, I don't think Gardner Minshew is going to get $15 million anywhere. I don't think he'll probably make $15 million the rest of his career.
Wow. Oh, you're not high on him at all.
Well, no, listen, I'm he's not my favorite. But he's been a backup quarterback for a reason, right? If he was worth $15 million, he would have one of these starting spots right now. Yeah, granted, I know he's on, he's contractually obligated to Philadelphia and he's not going to play over Jalen Hurts, yada, 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 but if NFL teams really believed in Gardner Minshew, somebody would have already signed him and paid him, but they didn't.
Right. And there was plenty of tape of him in Jacksonville. And so there must have been things in that tape and that film that made people disinterested, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, he's got the arm strength of, he makes Chris Streveler look like, I don't know, Rocket Man with an arm. So I'm looking something up right now on Daniel Jones, and they're projecting. Let's see the market value. I'm on SportTrack.com. The market value for him next year, they're projecting he'll get 3 years, $76.5 million. So that's $25.5 a year.
Who's that for?
Daniel Jones.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Average quarterback, 25 million. All right. That makes sense. The Giants should do it. If they're smart, they'll do it.
Yeah. Well, the Giants are probably kicking themselves in the ass right now for not picking up his fifth year option, because that would have cost them a lot less than 25.5 million. That would have cost
Right.
them about 18. So
Right. Now they've got to work it out. They've got to figure it out how they're going to work that into their plans, because they still don't have wide receivers. So they got challenges. Every team has challenges. Like, we're not the only ones struggling with the salary cap and and having to figure things out. I mean, we're all in the same boat. Like, the Rams and the Saints, man, they really got challenges when it comes to the finances. I
oh
mean,
man,
they're in trouble, those teams.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's Geno Smith, just as an argument. Geno Smith has had a he's been a revolution this year. He's really stepped up. He's played great football, right? What do you think his market value is for next year? Knowing that Daniel Jones is 25.5, what do you think Sport Track is projecting Geno Smith at?
I don't know, well, he's older, but less upside.
They're projecting
20 million?
him. They're projecting him 3 years, $108 million, $36 million a year.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I wouldn't
Crazy.
want to pay him. I wouldn't want to pay him that. He struggled a little bit lately in the last few weeks when he plays against the tougher defenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, not horrible though. He hasn't collapsed. Like, he still is efficient. So, in fairness to him, like, because I looked at some of his games, and even in games where they were going up against tough defenses and all that, it's not horrible, his numbers. He still finds he's not throwing a ton of picks. He's keeping his completion percentage up. He's not averaging a lot per attempt in those tough games. So
Yeah.
they're very, it's very pedestrian, but it's not falling apart though. It's not like, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, horrendous 40 quarterback rating. Like, he doesn't put up those kind of stinkers.
So this is a fun little game here. I'm looking at Baker Mayfield. What do you think Baker Mayfield is, Jeremy? Sport Track projected market value on Baker Mayfield next year, or the next contract he signs.
I don't know, 10 to 12 million?
2 years, $13 million.
6.5?
$6.5 million for Baker.
Wow, that's a deal. Well, I guess they're projecting him to be a good backup.
That's right.
Like, bottom of the league, bottom end starter, top end backup.
So they project him comparable to what Teddy Bridgewater got this year, which was 6.5 on the dot.
Mhm.
Jimmy Garoppolo got 7. Mitchell Trubisky gets 7.1, which is ludicrous to me. And Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh, who can't even sniff the field, gets 5.1 million. So
he's worth $5 million? Wow, I wouldn't want him.
They're projecting Baker to fall in that line. So in essence, Sports Track is saying that they think Baker Mayfield's going to be a backup quarterback next year.
Oh yeah, if they're saying he's $6 million, that's backup.
That's backup money, right?
What about Jordan Love?
Jordan Love's under contract, I believe. Yeah, he's not a free agent. Let's look him up though. Let's see if I can find.
Oh, he's
him.
not. I thought he.
No, he is under.
He hasn't been that long yet, huh? Oh, they got control over him for a while. But they're not going to tag him because that would cost way too much.
So next year is his 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
So he is under contract with Green Bay next year for. He's got a base salary of 2.2. He's got a bonus of 1.6. He's got a cap hit of 3.9.
I guess the question is, what would picking up his option cost?
His 5th year option will be. Let's see. I think it falls to. I think it goes up next year because it's based off of an average of the top 12 salaries at the position. So it's going to be in the 20s. He's not going to get a 5th year option I don't think they're going to pay him that money to be a backup, especially when they're already on the books with Aaron Rodgers for 40 plus million. So I think they can kiss the 5th year option for Jordan Love goodbye, but Yeah, he's not a free agent.
Hmm.
So Tom Brady, I'm not gonna. Sam Darnold. Let's see what they think Sam Darnold is worth. Sam Darnold, 5.1 million, 2 years, 10.2 million.
So they have Sam Darnold as a backup in their minds,
Yep.
or like bottom of the league starter or whatever. I don't know. I think we'll got to see how he finishes the year. I'm just curious about him. I'm curious if he could be respectable, if he could be like 20th best quarterback in the NFL kind of thing. Serviceable starter in the NFL if he was on the right team in the right situation. I mean, when McCaffrey was healthy in the beginning of last year, he looked good. He was okay. But when he lost his main weapon, then he really got exposed.
Yeah, for sure. Jimmy G, just for argument's sake, 34.9 million. They're projecting 4 years, 140 million for Jimmy
G.
Yep.
Who's going to do that though? I can't think of a team that's going to do that. He always gets hurt. He's injury prone.
What teams need quarterbacks?
We do, and we're
let's
talking
play
about
that game.
When we talk about Jimmy G, we don't talk about paying him freaking $30 million.
Washington needs a quarterback, right? Carolina needs a quarterback. Miami might need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Oakland or not Oakland, Las Vegas. If they cut ties with Derek Carr and via cut him or trade him, they're going to be in the market for a quarterback. San Francisco might need a quarterback. You don't know you still don't know what you have in Trey Lance, nor if you think he's going to be healthy for the season. He hasn't done it yet. But with Brock Purdy there, maybe that makes it a little bit harder pill to swallow at 30 plus million a year. Listen, do I think he'll get 4 years at that money? Do I think he'll get 4 years at that money? No, probably not. Probably not. That's $10 million more than Daniel Jones. And I'd probably say they're roundabout similar quarterbacks.
I mean, look, system-wise, we make the most sense for Jimmy G, and I don't see us willing to pay him that much. So
I don't think we can pay him that much.
I mean, the way Brock Purdy came in and the way he's playing in that same team, in that same system as Mr. Irrelevant, that to me lowers Jimmy G's value because it makes you think, anybody who's competent could come in and be okay in that offense.
Yeah.
And it's not like Jimmy G was that much more than competent in that offense. He didn't do any more than Brock Purdy is doing right now.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know. Oh, Tampa Bay. They need a quarterback. That's a good point.
Tampa Bay needs a quarterback?
Yeah. They're going to need a quarterback. There's going to be a lot of it's every year it happens. There's always teams that need quarterbacks. And now what sucks for us is we're back in that mix.
Yeah.
That sucks. I thought we were out of that game for a while. I thought Zach would last longer than this.
Yeah.
We
not the case, my friend. Not the case.
We are back in the we need a quarterback game.
Yeah.
Jeez. Unless Mike White answers our prayers. I mean, look, if Mike White, it's a big if, I know, but I'm just saying, if he was to throw over 300 yards a game the last two games and win us the game, play very well, right? 300 plus yards a game, over 65% completion, whatever it is, plays really well, leads us to victory in the two games, and let's say we pull off a major upset and beat Buffalo or something in the wild card game, win a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Or even play really well, play to the very end, and he plays really well. I don't think we're going to look for a quarterback if that's the case. I think we're going to sign him.
Yeah, I mean,
the locker room loves him. If he plays really well, I don't think they're going to shut their minds to it and say he has no opportunity to win and be the starter.
Listen, if Mike White comes in and leads us to the playoffs and some playoff victories, there's a very good chance that he's brought back next year, if not as the guy, as somebody who's battling for the guy, you know? But I don't think, just say 3 victories and a 4th really, really tough game. I don't think that brings Mike White into the $20 million range. I still think it's probably more along the lines of closer to $10 million a year. That's probably best case scenario for Mike White.
Yeah. Well,
More than
my good friend Ablab, what's up, buddy? Says, what if Mike White gets us to the AFC Championship? But the big question is, how does he get us there? Is it he plays competently enough, efficiently enough, and game manages us there with an amazing defense and a good running game because he's game managing well? Or is it Mike effing White? A couple of those games over 300 yards, throws touchdowns, very few interceptions, and he's a real quarterback. It really does it.
Yeah.
If he was to do that and lead us to the AFC, Ablab is saying if he leads us there, if he's the guy, and he does it with very good play and leads us there, I would say he's definitely the quarterback next year then. Why wouldn't he be? If he led us to the AFC game, that means he won us 2 games in a row to end the season, and he beat 2 excellent teams to get to the AFC Championship game.
I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case.
He wins the job.
Yeah. And that might be our best case scenario, because I still think a situation like that leads to, Mike White being in the $8 to $10 million range as opposed to Garoppolo at $35 million.
Yeah.
Derek Carr at $30 million, $35 million,
Yeah. But the only scary thing is what if he did that, if he balled out and he was absolutely took over the NFL, he was just great, right? Averages let's say be more realistic, 275 a game he averages. He averages a 2-to-1 touchdown ratio, right? Or 2.51 to touchdown ratio. And a 65% completion rate. Let's see, he does all of that. Balls out.
Mm-hmm.
Are other teams going to come knocking and offer? Are we going to get into a bidding war?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be. I don't think there's going to be a bidding war. Listen, and Mike White might take the best. Yeah, if I'm Mike White at 27 years old, finally getting the chance and stepping up and showing that I could play. You got to imagine that he's going to want to go to a team where he has the opportunity to be the guy, whether that's the Jets or not. That's yet to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to comment on somebody posted something in here. Let me see if I can find it.
Which one?
Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. Mr. Terrible. 11:58.
Mr. Terrible 11. I have him at 9 p.m. Mike White is okay. So not that one.
For you, it would be 8:58.
I'm looking. I'll find him. This one.
Yes.
Okay.
Anthony Richardson is the answer, and I'm going to, with every bit of conviction that I have, wholeheartedly disagree with that comment.
Okay. I don't know him, so I can't.
I've been knee deep in my college prep. Some of you guys know that the college off season and the draft is kind of my forte. I'm putting out a draft guide this year. Hopefully you guys will all get to read it and look at it and utilize it and like it and whatnot. And I'm going to say, as athletically talented as Anthony Richardson is, and he is, he is a bigger, stronger, faster Lamar Jackson with the ball in his hand. Anthony Richardson lacks one thing, and he struggles with, and it hasn't gotten any better at those simple things that we talk about with Zach. He has trouble reading the defenses, and that, all the physical talent in the world will not overcome that at the NFL. Anthony Richardson is going to be a first-round draft pick. I'm sure of that, especially with all the teams that have multiple picks in this draft. I could see a Seattle using one of their 2 picks on a guy like Anthony Richardson. I could see Detroit using one of their 2 picks on a guy like Anthony Richardson. He's going to be the guy that comes in, and you have to sit him, because you have to figure out if he can understand NFL defenses. He's got all the physical talents in the world, but the mental part of quarterback play leaves a lot to be desired. So he is not the answer for the Jets. I can assure you that.
And when you watch the tape, is it like, are you seeing things like that he's misreading defenses and making poor decisions?
Yeah. He's got he's got a career completion percentage just over the Mendoza line, about 55%. He's got a phenomenal, he struggles at the mental part of the game. The reading defenses, gets confused a lot, makes a lot of bad decisions with the ball in his hand, or trusts his athleticism sometimes too much, and a lot of those guys, the big, strong running quarterbacks, struggle with that same thing. Is sometimes they hold the ball too long because they wait for the athleticism to take over to make a play, as opposed to making the correct read, and that causes him a lot of trouble. Like I said, there's some plays that he makes and he's just like, wow, Lamar Jackson couldn't have made that run. He's a bigger, stronger, faster Lamar Jackson. Now, in fairness to Richardson, in fairness to the kid, he's very young. And a lot of the same things were said about Lamar coming out of college. A lot of the same things. And he was able to overcome some of that. It took some time, but I don't think we're saying anything out of line or out of context that's saying Lamar Jackson was known as a run first quarterback before he was a true, NFL caliber, decisive, pass thrower. That took some time for him to develop. His athletic prowess offered him the ability to grow in that sense, and that's what I hoped Zach would. That would happen with Zach, but it hasn't yet. Right. I think Anthony Richardson's going to have to come into a spot where he's not forced to play. He learns a little bit. Maybe has a veteran in front of him. Like I think Seattle would be ideal for him. If Seattle re-signed Geno Smith and drafted Anthony Richardson and let him sit behind Geno for 2 years before handing him the reins, perfect.
Yep. Do it the old-fashioned way.
Find
a great athlete, but and then develop them.
Yeah.
The right way. So what do you think of this question? I think it's a good question, so I wanted to put it up there.
Sure. If White gets us to the playoff and actually does well, would you offer him 3 years, 30 fully guaranteed? Would I offer him, or do I think JD would offer him that? That's the maybe different things. I don't think that's unfair. I think that's kind of a ballpark figure, and that would be, if he proves exactly what you said, he gets us to the playoff and does well in the playoffs, wins a couple games, so on and so forth. I think he's going to be in that $10 million range.
Yep.
So committing to him 3 years, for $10 million a year, fully guaranteed. Yeah, I could get down with that, because I don't think that numbers like that, $10 million a year, doesn't lock you into him being the guy.
Yeah, I would say it's like worst case scenarios, he's a very expensive backup, but it's not a backbreaking.
Yeah. The only problem with that is next year we're going to have Zach on the roster. Whatever anybody says or thinks, I disagree with. I think that
we have to. I mean, the finances.
The finances are going to cost Zach to take up a roster spot. I don't, and maybe he's the backup or he's the third stringer and he's, sits there and learns and develops, but he's going to be on the roster. So, and that's at $9.5 million a year. So you're committing $19 million to the quarterback position. Still affords you the opportunity to bring in another quarterback. Richardson has completed 53% in college this year. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's just over the Mendoza line. Yeah.
Mendoza.
And 50% is what I'm considering the Mendoza line. Like he's a much better athlete right now than he is quarterback. Could he develop into a quarterback? Absolutely, he could. You know, he's as talented as they come, but he's not the guy I want for the Jets. And that's no disrespect to the kid. I think he has the opportunity to be a great ball player, but I don't want to risk rolling the dice on another guy, based on athletic prowess without being able to see what's going on. Plus the fact that I just don't think the Jets are in the market to be a first round draft. They're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round this year.
No,
That's
I
my
was
guess.
thinking that. I was thinking the highest possibility, and I don't expect this. I was saying if you gave me like as high up as we'd go, I was saying and it would still shock me, but I would say it's not. I wouldn't say it's impossible. Is maybe, and I don't think this, but maybe if a quarterback that he really loved, because there is a handful of them, was to slip to us in the second round. No trading up, but was just sitting there. And it was the guy he loved, absolutely loved. Maybe there's a chance in the second round he says, let's grab and develop this quarterback for a couple of years. You know what I mean? Over whatever we had decided. Maybe. But I would be surprised.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised.
I just think that, considering the tight cap that we have right now, which is just, which is going to be about 16 million after you roll in or 16, 17 million after you roll in what we have left over from this year. And obviously there's going to be moves that frees up cap space, so on and so forth. But you got to remember, with all the cuts that you make to free up cap space, there's also more bodies that you have to put on the field. Right. So it's easy to say, oh yeah, we can cut, Carl Lawson and Corey Davis and free up $35.5 million in cap space. It's great. But then you have to replace Corey Davis and Carl Lawson.
Right. You still have to put players out.
You still have to put players out there. So,
yeah.
So I just think the holes that we'll have to fill are going to outweigh a developmental quarterback in the day one or day two.
And I agree. The way things are, like we need obviously a free safety. Another linebacker wouldn't hurt. Although I don't know if he'll do it. Offensive line, all areas of the offensive line wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised at any pick on the offensive line. If it was a new center, that wouldn't surprise me. If it was a guard, it wouldn't surprise me. If they picked another tackle, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we could, there's arguments for all of that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we're in a playoff hunt now. And I think the good news about that is we get to, before we think about the offseason with quarterback, we still don't have all the information because we're about to get a lot of information. We're going to get to see Mike White for as long as he keeps winning, playoff situation football. We're gonna, do or die football. Seattle's the first test. If he gets past that, then he's got Miami. So we're gonna know a lot more between now and the actual offseason because there's a lot of information that we're gonna get because we're gonna see Mike White in win or die situations and see and learn more about him because we know so little about him. I really think that we know very little about him when you consider the sample size that we have in this kid.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. Can you buy endurance? What do you know what he's referring? Am I missing a reference?
I don't.
Is he talking about insurance? Endurance? I don't know. If you're saying insurance, unfortunately for cap purposes, you can't. There's no way to sign a guy to a big contract and get insurance on the cap, unfortunately.
Yeah. How is Nakobe Dean doing? I remember wanting him out. Wow, you
remember me during the draft? We can get Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing much. Playing a lot of specials.
Is it because he got hurt?
Yeah, he was drafted hurt. I mean, the shoulder injury had something to do with it, but he's not doing much. On the defensive side of the ball.
We'll see though. I mean, it's way too early to tell because he was banged up, and we have to see.
Correct.
100%. What about Lloyd? Greg Lloyd.
Phenomenal season so far.
Who's he playing for?
Jacksonville.
Oh, that's right. So, and he's playing well, huh?
Playing very good. A lot of those guys. A lot of the guys that some of the big names that we talked about during the offseason last year have really balled out, really proven themselves to be the players that we thought they could be. And then there's some then there's some that have disappointed. That's the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. I mean, I know Braden just loved Lloyd so much.
Yeah.
So, but
Braden just loves linebackers, man. That guy who wanted a linebacker, he would have been happy if we drafted 7 of them. Called it a day.
I still would want. I mean, I'm fine with CJ. I'm frustrated because I really want to see more of Jamie Sherwood, and it bothers me that he's a one position guy. Apparently, other than replacing stepping in for CJ, he can't play any other linebacker position on our team based on what they're who they're using, and that pisses me off because I like CJ, but I really want to see this kid Jamie Sherwood because we saw him for 4 plays and he made 3 solo tackles and he looked really good.
Well, remember this also about Jamie Sherwood. Sherwood was a 4th round draft pick who was a safety in college. He was a strong safety. So he never played the linebacker position. And then his rookie year was cut short with the Achilles. So he's really probably played 1 full year of football in 2 years so far. So my guess is that he's still learning the position and he's just not up to par to step in on the outside where we have, Quincy Williams or Quan Alexander, so on and so forth.
But he's ready to play the middle because as soon as CJ went down for those 4 plays, Jamin was right in there.
Yeah.
So any theory on whatever happened to Marcel Harris and why we did that, why we cut him and then re-signed him to the practice squad and like any theory there? Do you think that?
No, it's a bunch of that. It's a bunch of just roster gymnastics. Like you have to free up a spot to call up a guy so that because you can't protect him on the practice squad, and you think that Pittsburgh or the Giants are going to come in and swoop in and grab him, so on and so forth. So I think a lot of that is just like there's a lot of game playing amongst the GMs to do that stuff to protect the guys because you can only protect you have to bring up a certain amount of guys from the practice squad and you can only protect them or leave them unprotected. You don't want to leave them unprotected at the wrong times. You know what I mean? Hence, like I said, we missed the boat on oh my God, who's the defensive lineman there that we drafted last year from Arkansas? He was on the practice squad this year and Pittsburgh just signed him. Jonathan Marshall. Yeah. Jonathan Marshall, like I said, we left him unprotected 1 too many times and Pittsburgh swooped in and grabbed him. And now he's
yeah. I mean, when you play the game, sometimes it comes back to bite you, right?
That's right. So
we probably definitely wanted
just like what they did with Will Parks, right? You remember they released Will Parks,
right?
And he didn't, but they released him like with a wink, saying, "Listen, we're going to release you so that we can call up this guy and protect him. You sign back to the practice squad, and we'll elevate you for the game on Sunday."
We probably tried to do that with Pinnock, but the Giants picked him up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and that was just like I said, the original cuts is you hope that you cut. Again, that's a good problem that we have is that we have too many guys that we can't keep all on the 53. So you hope to sneak one of them by, and I'm assuming they were hoping to sneak Pinnock by, but the Giants wouldn't. Giants wasn't going to let that happen.
Yeah,
and he's playing. He's playing pretty decent for the Giants. He's not a world beater. I think he fits that defense a lot better than he did our defense. He was again. He was another guy who was very raw at the position. And it shows that there's definitely a type that Saleh and Ulbrich have for that free safety position. They like those guys who are shifty, who are fast, who are multifaceted, that can play man up in the slot when they need to, so on and so forth. And that's Tony Adams.
Right.
Tony Adams was a slot corner in college. Who also played a little bit of star backer or third safety, if you will. You know, he's the type of guy. And Tony Adams has done a nice little job for himself out there too. You know, on the limited reps that he gets.
Oh yeah, has he played well?
Yeah, he's done pretty well. You know,
Wasn't Will Parks the culprit? I don't know if he's the number one culprit, but wasn't he one of the culprits on the Detroit touchdown?
It was awful. Will Parks was awful on that play. Will Parks the past 3 games has been pretty bad. You know, whether it's, I mean, I can probably count a half dozen, if not more, missed tackles. Some of those that bad angle where he gave up on the Detroit touchdown, that tight end leak. You know, it's very, very underwhelming. Will Parks, yeah, very underwhelming safety room overall this year. I think we had a lot of high hopes for Jordan Whitehead, who's flashed at times, but he's had a lot of bad plays as well. You know,
yeah, we're not going to be cutting Lincoln Tomlinson because we guaranteed him 2 years. So it doesn't make sense to cut him. I mean, I know we're all mad at him and we all know he's overpaid.
Yeah.
He hasn't played up to his contract, but he's still serviceable. He's just not playing up to his contract.
Yeah. Nolte, he'll be back.
Without him.
He'll be back next year, Nolte. The out for him is after the 23 season. Right. That's when, you know, and those are the little things, those are the intricacies that Joe Douglas is so good at. Yeah. He'll bring guys in, but he always gives himself an out. And the out for Laken Tomlinson's after 23.
And that's not bad. When you pay that much money for an all-pro player to be able to win the negotiation, the battle for the teams that wanted him with only 2 years, skin in the game, that's pretty good. A lot of teams would have gotten sucked into three years and still taking a cap hit the 4th year, you know? So yeah. The fact that we can get out of it, but what I want to say is he's not below serviceable. So it's not like, I'd rather eat the 10 million or whatever it is, or 12 million in dead cap and just have him off the team because he sucks. I mean, he's still serviceable. He's still a starting guard. He's just not worth a lot of money. Like, he's not playing like a star, but I don't think he's bad and below serviceable. Do you?
No, listen. I don't think he's played up to the all-world level that he has in the past, and that we expected him to. But I think there's a lot of factors to it. I think there's, I think the inconsistencies all along the offensive line have come into play. Maybe, it could just be an adjustment year. Yes, he did come from San Francisco. He knows the offense, all that stuff. But it's still a new team. It's still a new routine. It's still a new place. You got to remember that these guys are still human. Like, they have families that they got to get adjusted and brought over and situated and so on and so forth. And to think that stuff doesn't weigh on them, it probably does. I just don't think he's playing great.
Do you ever think we'd be reading this? We need LaMarcus Joyner back.
We need him back this week. I don't know about next year. But
we definitely need him back this week. But we need the kid from Alabama for next year.
Brian Branch, man. Brian Branch, one of my favorites one of my absolute favorites in the draft. And definitely somebody that could be targeted. I definitely think so.
No reason not to. No reason not to. He he fits our need perfectly. So
yeah. So somebody posted something about the centers that are available. I'm one who thinks that our best option at center is to pay Connor McGovern. I think Connor McGovern has been really good this year. There's been moments and plays and reps that he's been bad, but overall, I mean, he's been a plus and an absolute advantage for us in the run game. And the past game, he's had his moments. There's not much that I know of off the top of my head of guys that are going to be free agents outside of Jason Kelsey, who's going to be 36 years old. Rodney Hudson, who's going to be 35 years old. I think Garrett Bradbury from Minnesota is a free agent, but he's probably going to cost more money than Connor McGovern will. I'd rather have Connor McGovern, even if it means he gets a little bit of an increase from the 10 million he got this year. I'm fine with giving Connor another 2-3 years at 12 or 13 million, if you can make it all work. I just think the ends justifies the means there, but I wouldn't object to us drafting a center as well. Something that, we haven't brought in a true center since Nick Mangold. I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think we've drafted a true center since Nick Mangold. And I mean, those are big shoes to fill. I think Nick Mangold was one of the best Jets draft picks that I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That if we could bring in, if we can extend or like re-sign McGovern for a reasonable contract that doesn't get out of hand, people don't understand or realize like he's a better than average center. He's not the hole in our team. Like he's simply not the problem. And sometimes as you address the holes and the places you got to get better, you got to just be happy with a guy who's better than average and who's not the problem. And if you can keep for reasonable money, keep him on the team, there's no point, in my opinion, either like to make a change because he knows our system. He likes it here. He fits into the culture of the locker room. Like it doesn't seem like there's any real reason to be like showing him the door or pushing him out. Unless, you know how Joe Douglas is, unless the value in the draft is there. If it's like a certain part of the draft in one of the rounds where he's looking at the draft board and the best guy on, the best value player on the board is a center, obviously there's no reason he wouldn't do it because we're sitting here in a situation where we have a center that's, at the end of his contract.
Yeah.
By then we might have resolution though. We may have already resigned him, like we might already know the situation with McGovern. Or we might be going into the draft with a desperate need for center because somebody else, plucks him away.
Yeah, listen, I think McGovern's is more than serviceable, but I think if you weigh out, your needs and you think that re-signing Connor McGovern is going to lose you a need or two that might be above that, you let him go and you figure it out elsewhere, right?
Now, do you see the New York Jets fan force question? Do you see any centers that might be available in, I don't know, the second round, the third round, the fourth round? Anyone you got your eye on that would realistically be there in a round that we might actually take a center, like third, fourth round, let's say?
Well, I think the kid from Minnesota, John Michael Schmitz, is really good, and he's cut for the outside zone blocking scheme. He's a big boy. He can get into the second level. He uses, he can turn his hips. He uses his leverage really well. I think he's going to be a very, very good pro. And, he's probably a top 50, top 75 guy.
So that could be
second, third round.
Possibly third round because centers slip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if he's ranked 65 to 70, he could still slip to anywhere between 60 and 90 up to, because centers do slip. We see it all the time. We see players drop in the draft.
Yeah. I think personally, he's probably my favorite center prospect. Jarrett Patterson is a name that we all know from Notre Dame and, the pedigree that he has, but I think he's geared more to a power blocking or a man blocking scheme as opposed to, the outside zone. But I think he's slipped a little bit this year in his value, so he might be there in the third or the fourth round. Alex Forsythe is another guy from Oregon who I really like. Again, you're talking middle, you're talking late day 2. Early day 3, third, fourth, late second round, possibly more so third or fourth round, possibly. But like I said, I'm targeting if I'm targeting a center in the draft, I got a big bullseye on John Michael Schmitz.
Hmm.
center from Minnesota.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. But that's going to cost you a day. That's going to cost you your second round pick. Yeah, I don't think you roll the dice and risk that he's there in the middle or late third round. I think you pull the trigger if you think he's the guy. If you think he's the guy, you go and get him in the second round.
If he's part of JD's plan, like this is the guy, then that's the guy. But we know JD. He has his board and he sticks to it, and he has his value, and he doesn't get emotional in that sense. He sticks to his guns. But it's someone we'll look for in the draft. It's somebody we'll keep an eye out, and if in the second round we were to end up selecting him, it'll be interesting because we talked about him. And we'll have the whole offseason to look at these guys and look at tape and have fun doing all that stuff, and we will. Jets 830, thanks, man. This guy just goes around pumping me up, man. He not just here on this channel, he goes to other channels and says, "You got chaos is the show." You got, so I appreciate it.
I see a lot of this in Mr. McGreen Jeans. In his idea, for you it'd be 9:28 a.m. for you.
Okay, 9:28. Let's go find you, buddy. Here he is.
So, ideal world. Becton comes back full steam. Agree. AVT left guard, McGovern a rookie center, Herberg right guard, Mitchell right tackle. I like everything about that except
Tomlinson.
Exactly. You got two things. I think you got Tomlinson's going to be a starter next year. Tomlinson's not going to lose his job. He's going to be on the roster. He's going to be playing. And I really think that as I would love to see Becton come in and be the Becton that, we knew and we loved before, the 2 year, he lost 2 years to the injury. But I don't think we can just hang our hat on that. I think it's going to be, we're going to have Dwayne Brown on this roster also. He's another guy who we're contractually obligated to.
Yeah, so, I think Becton's one of those guys that we're going to assume for safety, like if they're smart, to be safe, we're going to assume he's not going to play. We're going to assume we don't have him. And we're going to build a team as if we don't have him. But then he's going to come to camp, and if he's amazing, it's going to be this wonderful surprise, and we're going to go, yay, and we're going to have this really good tackle, But we're not going to plan to have him, right? We're not a third year in a row.
I'm not. It's impossible to bank on it, and it's sad. But I want to be proven wrong on that because, like I said, I think even if it's Dwayne Brown at left tackle and Becton at right tackle, and Tomlinson at left guard and AVT at right guard, and whoever center you want to say, if it's McGovern, if it's another free agent, if it's a rookie, like that's great. And, then you have Mitchell as your swing tackle. I don't think you bring back Herbig. I don't think we're going to bring back Herbig. Not to say that I wouldn't like to, but I just think he's probably played himself into an opportunity where someone's going to give him a chance to play.
Yeah, he's going to go somewhere. He's going to go somewhere and be a starter. So we're not going to be able to re-sign him. And Salty Nolte, by the way, what's up, buddy? Is being
Nolte, my dude.
He's being salty. He's saying Becton is finished. I believe Becton is finished. And it's the safe assumption. If I'm Joe Douglas, if my job is building a roster and building a team like next year or next offseason, I'm going to go in with the assumption that Becton is not going to be my guy. And then let him prove me wrong and be pleasantly surprised if he does. But we have to move forward as if he's not going to work out. No question. We can't leave ourselves because you can't do it 3 years in a row. You can't go into a third season and again have it happen. You just can't do it. You have to go in, with a good chance that you have your, that you have your situation this is our situation. And if Becton works out, then he just improves the situation and creates a good problem to have. I personally still have a lot of hope for Becton because I think he had it's horrendously bad luck, but I think he was working hard. I think he wanted to come back. I think he was serious about it, contrary to what some people are saying. And I think he's going to be serious about coming back again. I think he's going to work hard. And I mean, it's just it's the health of his knee. If they can get his knee, I mean, he needs more than just the surgery. They need to properly make sure that the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, the rehab has to be done correctly. Like they need to build the muscles around his legs, right, to help protect his knee. It's not just the knee. It's like the core. It's like my bad back. The stronger the core, the more I take care of myself and I make my core stronger, the better my back is going to be. Well, it's the same thing with the knee, right? The more it's like it's not just building up the knee. He has to build up all the muscles in his legs. And he has to be a respectable weight. Like he can't be, oh, I'm going to be very heavy and come in and lose weight just in time for camp. That's not good for his knee. He needs to be as fit as possible.
Yeah, there's something to be said about 20 years, being a big guy, and that stuff wears on joints, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's going to have to, like, if he can get down to 340, can you imagine what a beast he'd be?
My fingers are crossed that he can come back and make some waves, man, because it makes our lives a hell of a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of pressure off of, trying to. It's one less hole that you have to really worry about filling.
Oh my God! Can you imagine him on the same side as? I mean, they'll keep Tomlinson where he is, but like, imagine he comes back and he ends up as the left tackle. Maybe he'll make Tomlinson better. And then you get AVT back on the other side, and maybe we draft somebody, or you have Max Mitchell come back, and it'd be really nice.
Yeah,
be a good situation. And then you got Dwayne Brown as a backup, which is what we wanted. We want a guy his age, better for him to just be a swing tackle.
Well, I'll tell you this: if Dwayne Brown comes back, now he's we're paying him almost $7 million next year. The only way we're going to get out of that is if he retires, which is it's not out of the realm, considering he's 38 years old. He's going to have reconstructive shoulder surgery to fix that labrum tear. He might just decide to hang him up, and that'd be great because we would get some cap relief from that. I don't think we'd be free of all the $7 million, but we would get something from that.
So this serious question: how do we learn anything about Mike White these 2 weeks, considering he's playing Seattle's defense and Miami's defense? I think we might be slightly overrating the if it's not a good defense, you can't tell and it doesn't count kind of thing, because it's not like, it can't be every defense is either great or they totally suck. It's still NFL defenses. And that's a good question when you say, how do we learn anything? Well, anything. I'm not saying that we're going to learn everything because of that, right? Because, if we're not playing the Niners, if we're not playing the best defenses in the league, you're right, we can't learn everything. And it's only 2 games, so we can't learn everything. But if you're asking me how we're going to learn anything, well, let's say he does really well against Miami and Seattle's defenses. That's not nothing. It's not everything, but it's something. I'm learning something about him. I'm learning that he could do well against Miami's defense, and I'm learning that he could do well against Seattle's defense. I could be learning that he's capable of putting 2 games in a row together that are good and leading our team to victory 2 games in a row. I mean, there's a lot I could learn about him. And then finally, that would mean most probably getting into a playoff game, and then we could really learn a lot about him, because then we could learn, with him going up against either Kansas City or Buffalo's defense, that would be fine for us to learn more about him. Do I think we could learn everything we need to learn about Mike White to make the best possible decision if he should be the guy? The answer is obviously no. But I think we could learn something about him. I hope that answers this question.
Yeah. At Super Leroy, he's still on the Anthony Richardson.
He likes Anthony Richardson.
No, I don't think he likes him too much.
Oh, okay.
From what I'm reading, and I can't disagree with him. Like I said, I think he's, he's all world talent. And again, not to harp on the prospects or nothing like that, but me, Jeremy. Once I get going on the college guys, it's hard to stop.
I know. No, it's fine. I think people love, although some people always come in and say we're still alive this year. People love talking about possible prospects. in every sport. Think about it. I mean, as the Mets in baseball, I could talk to you for hours about prospects.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's and get excited, and I mean, it's still the core of how you build a great team because the young players you draft, those are the inexpensive contributors. Those are the players that set the difference. Everybody's playing by the same rules with the salary cap. The biggest way around those rules and to have the advantage is to draft better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but to your point that he never plays under center, I don't think that that's necessarily even a thing to be concerned about because there's a lot of quarterbacks that don't even go under center anymore. I mean, it's rare Lamar Jackson's under center. Fields doesn't play under center. Josh Allen doesn't play under center a lot. I agree with you what you're saying, Leroy, in the sense that he's probably a second or third round talent, in the grand scheme of things, but he's going to go in the first round. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's deserved, but somebody is going to take the chance on that that what he offers athletically can be developed into a NFL quarterback. He's not an NFL quarterback yet. Absolutely not.
I mean, look at the chance. Look what the Niners did. The Niners traded up all that draft capital. And they took someone that they knew was a developmental guy. They took a project.
Yeah.
They knew, and nobody in their right mind would have believed that Trey Lance was ready to play in the NFL.
The two big questions I have in regards to this draft and quarterbacks are where CJ Stroud and Will Levis go. CJ Stroud has had all the hoopla, but he struggled this year. And he struggled. He's got the build. He's got, he measures up as a good, prospect, but, he hasn't handled pressure very well. And we're the opposite of Will Levis. Will Levis is probably the most pro-ready quarterback out of all of them. He's mature. He does all the things that you want a good quarterback to do in regards to reading defenses, processing, getting through progressions, the whole nine. He's got a cannon of an arm, but he's, he seems like he chokes under pressure. Like when the pressure is at its highest, he seems to crumble, So.
I mean, look, people overvalue, whether it's like in free agency or the draft, quarterbacks are overvalued, admittedly, because of the importance of the position. So teams will gamble. Teams will roll the dice and take quarterbacks way ahead of how they're ranked because that's the position. If you hit, you really change your franchise. You alter your franchise. Yeah. So it's why people will roll the dice on that position.
Yeah. Cameron, I don't think Bryce Young is too young. I just think he's too frail. Again, another guy who's all the talent in the world, probably going to be the number one overall pick. But, he's going to do it at a size that's never been done in the NFL. 180 pound quarterback.
Yeah.
So
we should double dip at OL and get a safety. Well, we only have a certain amount of picks, but those are the positions that I was going for. Like, my first mock, I attacked the offensive line, I added a defensive tackle, and I added a safety. So those are the areas I went. I do think that we're going to, I don't know what we're going to do with, obviously I believe we're going to extend Q, and we'll take care of the Quinnen Williams thing. I don't know about Rankins and the other guys around them. Like, is it time that we go in and we invest a real pick in a big 300-pound run-stopping defensive tackle to sit alongside Quinnen Williams?
Well, that's what Nathan Shepard's role has been, right? Or supposed to be.
And he's been better this year.
He's been much better this year.
Yeah, he's been better.
So yeah, I guess it really depends on like I said, it's one of those defensive line we talk about, like the depth that we have in it this year. Well, come off season, Rankin's a free agent, Shepard's a free agent, Solly Thomas is a free agent, Vinny Curry's a free agent.
Carl
Bryce-
Lawson might not come back.
Carl
We might not
Lawson
take him back.
Carl Lawson more than likely will be playing elsewhere next year. There's a possibility
unless he's willing to restructure.
Yeah, there's a possibility they restructure him, but if I had to bet on it today, I'd bet that he's playing somewhere else.
He's not lighting up. He's not lighting up the boards.
Bryce Huff is a free agent. So defensive
You've gotta
line.
sign Bryce Huff.
Defensive line is a sneaky need for us. So if we invested some early capital in it, wouldn't surprise me in the least. Now, I think we go? Sorry, I think that
to me, Bryce Huff is more important than Carl Lawson? I'm just saying.
Yeah, Bryce. Listen, I would have already locked up Q by now, and once Q is done, I'd be turning all the attention to Bryce Huff. But the question is Bryce Huff value, or Bryce Huff's agent think that his value is more than what JD thinks his value is, because he doesn't play more than a handful of reps every game, and JD shows that JD has a value for that, Right. It's right around $5 million a year. That's what he paid Jacob Martin, right? $5.5 million a year. Something like that for 3 years. No. Yeah, $5 million a year for 3 years.
It might be hard to get Huff to sign that deal.
Yeah, but that's what he shows. That's what JD's market value is for those pass rush specialists that are going to see the field, 5, 10, 15 reps. Now, as fans, we might say Huff needs to see more reps than that. But he's brought in to do one thing and one thing only, and that's get vertical and get at the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We have Michael Clemens, we have Jermaine Johnson, Jermaine Johnson. I think is still so underrated on this Jets defensive front. The way he plays the run is like nothing that I've seen in a long time from a young kid, man.
It's one of the biggest changes on the team, in my opinion.
He is so good, and we knew that, his pass rushing skills was going to be a work in progress. Not to say that they're bad, but he doesn't need to, he can just go in there and concentrate on what he does very well, because you get Carl Lawson to pressure the quarterback. You got JFM, who's always going to be on the field. You got Huff and Vinny Curry in those special situations to go to the quarterback. So Jermaine Johnson hasn't been asked. Michael Clemens has been, has played more pass rush reps at defensive end than Jermaine Johnson has this year. Right. I think that's going to change. I think you're going to see the reps go up for Jermaine Johnson, as years come on. He's just so good.
Yeah,
he's so fucking good.
They're developing him. I think he's doing great. Thanks to you, I give you full credit. I didn't have the knowledge to have even called it out. But if you watch me on Green Bean Show on the watch party, and I call it out all the time, and I know it makes you proud every time I say it, I point out, I say, look how JJ sealed the edge.
Yeah.
Look, do you see how JJ sealed the edge? Look how he bounced off and got the guy going around the end.
There's some
off and recovers and makes the tackle. Last year, we didn't do that.
He's got this innate ability. And if you think about it, if anyone here has ever played football or played any sport for that matter, especially something like football, when the play goes, it takes effort, it takes smarts to not just trail the play or to try to do something, and to really stay home and own your responsibility. The fact that he can do that and do it at such a high level is at such a young age, 22, 23 years old is really so good. Like, I'm not saying it because I'm a Jets fan. I just think Jermaine Johnson is really, really good.
I'm super excited. I think he's one of the most underrated players on the team and around the NFL. I mean, a lot of outsiders think, a lot of people think we missed on him because they're looking at box scores.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. He's so much better than what the numbers he puts on the stat line show. And listen, do I ever think he's going to be a 16, 17 sack guy? Is he going to be TJ Watt? No, I don't think so. I see, what I see a lot in him? I think he's a much better. I mean, they are a little bit different, but it reminds me a lot of when Leo Williams was at the Jets. I thought Leo Williams was great. He was a very good 5-tech, true 3-4 run stuffing defensive edge that really didn't get at the passer as much. He was a heralded, defensive end coming out of college. I thought he was going to be, the next Gastineau. That didn't turn out that way, but he found his niche and he became very good at it. And I think that's going to be Jermaine Johnson. Probably going to float under a lot of the radars, maybe never be an all-pro. But he's a good football player, man.
Yeah. And I'm still hopeful that as he plays more of those reps, he will get a little higher sack total.
Listen, he's not bad.
Right.
And he gets at the quarterback.
Amazing. Like if he stops the run the way he stops the run and plays the run the way he plays the run, and he puts up 7 to 10 sacks, that would be incredible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd be thrilled with. I would be absolutely thrilled. I've been very happy with him. I'm very happy with him. I'm very happy with Clemens.
Just the way he
presence felt every game he plays.
Yeah, Clemens plays with he plays different, man. He plays with an aggressiveness and a vigor that we haven't seen in a while. But Jermaine Johnson, that guy fights through double teams, and he does it all with picture perfect, pristine technique. He gets across the face of the guy who's trying to hook him, and he doesn't give up the ground. He uses his hands as good as any defensive lineman in this league. He's so good. So and then he has the athletic ability to chase down Josh Allen on the outside, for a sack. So
here's something I see going around this chat. I'm curious. I think this could happen. You tell me if I'm crazy. I think to save money on the cap, and you've said this, so I know you believe the first part of it, that this might be the end of Corey Davis. His last few games with the Jets, unless he restructures. But I think I'll take it a step further. I think that Mims may have done enough to be the replacement for Corey Davis.
Well, again, it depends on what happens with the rest of the roster, right? If we bring in a quarterback at the 12, 15, 18, $20 million range, that's probably going to seal the deal for Corey Davis. Now, the argument can be made, Corey Davis at $12 million is still relatively cheap. Top end receivers get plenty more, so he falls in cheap. In that
market wise, he's actually
he's under market value at $12 million. But if we have to, if we're going to have to force some cap space to bring in a $20-25 million quarterback, then it just makes sense because you can be free of Corey Davis, for 600,000 and change in dead cap space and free up $14 million worth of cap space. Same thing with Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson's $400,000 worth of dead cap space, and you free up $16 million.
That's $30 million between the two of them.
Yeah,
and it's a lot. I mean, for guys that might be replaceable, meaning
Mims, so if you think Mims has showed enough that he can take some of the reps from Corey Davis, and you need the cap space, then that's a move you make. Because Mims costs $1 million.
It's more based on the success of Garrett Wilson. A lot of it falls onto that. Also, just that Mims brings in the component of the blocking because he's such an excellent blocking wide receiver.
Yes,
and seems to be doing enough, to be the third choice. Garrett Wilson's the main target. You got Elijah Moore in the slot as a big target, one of our main targets. You got Michael Carter, Breece Hall, whoever it is. We got guys like that. We got tight ends. So then you have Mims is just another target, but he doesn't have to be, high volume catches. Mims is a big play kind of guy that every once in a while make that big play. But most importantly, He's going to block for Elijah. He's going to block for Brees Hall. He's going to block for all of these guys in the open field.
Yeah. Listen, Mims has been very up and down. He does some good things. He's had the opportunity to make some plays where he hasn't. He's had the opportunity to make some plays. That fourth down, fourth down catch from Zach in the Pittsburgh game was huge, And then you see some where he's wide open and he's, at 6'2", he's jumping up in the air to try to catch the ball down at his dick. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's weird. But hey, if Mike White is amazing, if he was,
okay,
and it made it that we don't have to spend too much on quarterback, if that happened, then you're right. Corey Davis is a bargain in the wide receiver market. He is.
Yeah.
But if we have to spend tons of money on a quarterback, then it doesn't matter. We're going to have to make hard decisions and give away good bargains and good value because we just have no choice, right? I mean,
yeah, I think Corey Davis and Carl Lawson, those two in particular, are going to be victims of circumstance one way or another. If you need to free up the cap space, they're the two most logical guys to move on from.
It sucks,
especially since Carl Lawson. Yeah, especially since Carl Lawson can be replaced right now with Clemens and JFM and JJ and hopefully Huff and so on and so forth.
It just sucks because I love Carl Lawson when we signed him, and I thought we were getting a bona fide star.
Listen, Carl Lawson. Yeah, listen. I don't think Carl Lawson lived up to the expectations that we had of him. But also remember that he's still only 1 year removed from an Achilles tear. Next year could be completely different for him.
Right.
He could come back with the Jets either on his current contract or a restructured contract and light the world on fire. He could go sign with somebody else and light the world on fire now that he's, got a full year back. But
yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of interesting moves. But what's amazing is we're talking about this, but we still have 2 meaningful games to play. We are still playing, technically in a sense, playoff games. So, yeah. I mean, Green Bean and I both decided we're gonna build this game and be excited and have fun, as if it's a playoff game. Because if we lose the game, it's over. Right. And then all the fun goes away, and then it's next year, and it's basically we're on to other conversations. So we're going to enjoy this meaningful game in January. We're going to enjoy the build up, enjoy getting to, having the opportunity and everything. And if we win the game, then that's going to be set up the biggest Jet game in 7 years.
Yeah.
Without question. Yeah. Biggest Jet game in 7 years. If we play Miami for a win and we're in scenario, it's a playoff game, and it's like everything we could have ever dreamed of to come out of this season when it started, like to be in a situation like that,
Yeah.
So
Snowball, answer your question. Carl Lawson pressures. He has 23 pressures this season. 6 sacks.
That's not
4. Bad. No, not at all. 14 quarterback knockdowns. So, not bad. He's not playing bad at all. Playing 59% of the snaps. How many tackles does he have? That's a good question. He's got 28 tackles, which would be a second highest in his career. If he gets 6 more tackles, he'll have the highest tackle rate of his career. He's only clocked for 2 missed tackles all season long. So, he's been serviceable. I just don't, I think we expected a double digit sack guy who was, a danger. And I just don't know if that was ever his game. I think his game was always pressure. Quarterback hurries. So, And that's it, my friend.
All right. So look, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. We've been here for 3 hours. Thanks for staying all this time, Dom. But
Yeah.
sometimes when we get going and people have questions, it's good stuff. So
Oh, it's all good, man. Anytime I can be on here and cut it up with you in the chat, I'll always take advantage. So
hey, we're gonna have a lot of opportunity when the season is over, which should eventually, hopefully not for a long time. Hopefully we'll be all the way into February. But when it eventually is over, no matter what happens, we will have plenty of time to talk about. Obviously, we'll be following the off-season moves, the cuts, the releases, the
Yeah.
signings, but we'll also have tons of time to talk about drafts and the draft players, and we'll do mock drafts, and we'll do all that fun stuff and talk about all the different players. And
we're gonna bring back the Sunday show, correct?
we're definitely bringing back the Sunday show
Yeah.
for sure. So every Sunday, as soon as the season ends, every Sunday, me and Dom will be here, and Dom will be here to answer questions and talk about all the guys coming out of college, all the possible players for the Jets, and we'll watch a little tape if we can, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it's nice to know that we have a plan for the off season, because I know you guys can't get enough. And sometimes it used to be, before YouTube and before all this, it was very depressing. Once the season ended, that was it. There was no one to talk to about football. And, until the draft or free agency, you really didn't have much to do. But we're going to keep it going all year round for you guys, and have some entertaining shows for you.
Yeah.
So,
well, good stuff, man.
So someone's asking, am I going to have fans on the show on camera at any point? Yeah, I guess. No one's really expressed an interest in that. I mean, we could definitely do not the Sunday show at Dom. I don't think it would be appropriate for that, because Dom is going to have an agenda. He's going to have like different players picked out. We're going to be busy showing the tape of those players and things like that. But I have other shows. So I think the off season is a good time to bring people on. If you're interested, let me, obviously you are. I'll keep track of that. One of the ways to guarantee yourself a spot on the show, if you want to make an appearance on the show, is my membership chat thing. Like, if you become a member of the channel as a heavy snackers have the option to come on the show every once in a while. I never defined it officially, but like, let's say once every 2 months. Once every 2 months, a heavy snacker is allowed on the show and gets to be part of the show and make an appearance and have at least 30 minutes on the show. So, but that doesn't mean it's the only way. But that's the easiest way to secure it. If you become a snacker, heavy snacker, join the channel, you definitely get to be on camera. Even if you don't, just because you're a supporter of the channel, if you really push me and this is something you really want to do, we can give opportunities for people to be on the show. So I know Jake does it, Jake Osmond. So I don't want to be the guy that doesn't do it. I want to appreciate all of you. So if that's something a lot of you want to do, it's definitely something we can explore. But anyway, what do you want to tell everybody, Dom?
Guys, you can catch me always very active on Twitter at DC_NY Jets. Also check, I write for articles regularly for Green Bean at greenbeanjetsfan.com. Things have been a little bit slower now because I'm knee deep. Like I said, I'm putting out a draft guide for the 2023 prospects, which will hopefully be done and finalized within the next, 6 weeks or so. Waiting to see, actually by tomorrow or Friday at the latest, I might have some really, really fun stuff coming up, because I'm waiting to find out. I may be going to the Senior Bowl. I got some credentials for the Senior Bowl.
Wow.
So I'll be doing some live stuff from there. Like I said, and once the off season comes, we'll be doing, study hall sessions on Sunday night about the draft, lots of mock drafts and all that fun stuff, dude. So I'm always around. I'm always in the chats of all the favorite shows that you guys all watch. So I'm just one of you guys, man.
Tom C, man, he's the greatest. He's the best. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man.
Everybody in the chat, you're the best too. You're the guys that make it work. Thanks to everybody, and Have an amazing Thursday and Friday. And I will see you in the video worlds for sure. And I will definitely see everybody on Green Bean Jets Fan on Sunday for the big game. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody.
Happy New
We are live. We got Harry W. We got Richie from Jets Media, Matt O'Leary, Iowa Jets fan, we're in the house. We got Tom C in the house. We got Steve, live, CEO of the Jet Lounge. So I knew I'd get rich on my channel. See what's going on. Yeah, there we go. Woo.
Jets by $1 million today.
Yeah.